And hello, everybody, and we're live with this very special election night coverage. I should have some guests on relatively soon. Let me just message them. Okay, let's see here. Let me just get Serp. He's going to be the first person on. So I'll just need you all to let me know if the audio balance is working okay and that sort of thing. Okay, let me just message him. And Fritz should also be on. Let's see here. I'll just grab.
Hello.
Oh, hey, man. We're live, just so you know. Let me just message Serp, and I'll just put this in. So we will have Fritz Imperial and Serp Kerp on. I'm just getting everything set up. So yeah, I hope everybody is having a.
I'm hailing to you from the apparently golden utopia that is Turkmenistan. It has the most beautiful looking capital in the world.
Does Turkmenistan have the most beautiful looking capital in the world?
No, but it looks better than DC. It looks like a Soviet built city, but like everything is in white. It's like if the Soviet Union built Minas Tirith.
Right.
And has these like cool statues of like badass sultans.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so chat seems to be having trouble, so I'm just gonna change this around a bit. So yeah, everybody. We'll be boost them, they're kinda low. Okay, cool. Okay, perfect. Say something?
Nazgul gang rise up.
Okay, hopefully that's okay. So we're having our election today. So I'm just gonna go through once I just get chat up on screen, and we will take a look at what the final results were. Let's see, window capture. I want you to capture. Where is it? Why does this suck so hard? Yeah, it's like I don't get what it is. They got rid of the thing that kind of made stuff easy in YouTube. Like they completely screwed up streaming, which is kind of annoying. Have you tried streaming, Fritz?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, do you have the link to where you're finding the results?
Yeah, I'll put that up in a second. I was just putting
Thanks.
just that the live chat isn't working anymore, so I'm just okay, let's see.
So if you haven't known, how there's the or I'll wait for Serpcurp to come back. Okay, yeah. So you know how there's the Amazon Synod going on with the Catholic Church?
Yep.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Okay,
Yep,
sorry.
I can hear you fine.
It wasn't working for a second.
We're live at the moment, just so you know.
Okay. Hey everybody, this is Serp Kerp.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get this figured out, so just go ahead and if you guys just want to talk.
Yeah, I was saying, over the past couple weeks, they've been having the Amazon Synod in the Vatican, which is essentially a way. Well, the guise of it is trying to figure out ways to get more priests into the Amazon region because there's a lack of priests there. But a lot of more of the left wing of the Catholic Church basically want to treat it like Vatican III and introduce motions like marry priests and ordained women, and they bring in a whole bunch of like Amazonian like tribal rituals and stuff. And the worst offender is they brought in a whole bunch of carved, graven images, if you will, of naked women, naked pregnant women. And some people say, oh, it's the Virgin Mary, which you're never supposed to depict her naked. That's despicable. The Catholic Church officially said they're symbols of life, and more sane people have just called them what they are, which is false idols. And so two kings last night just went into the church where they were being held and chucked them into the Tiber.
Okay, so anyways, we're gonna start. I was just getting the chat up and running. So let's talk about the election. As always, if anybody wants to support me and my quality content, there is you can super chat or there's a donation button for Streamlabs. And so yeah, let's just take a final look at what the last predictions are. Guys, let me know in the chat if it's okay with regards to the audio balance between me and the guests, and let me know if you can see the chat okay in the thing. I've had to do kind of my bootleg custom chat because of... Okay, so let's see here.
What site are you using?
For the election?
Yeah.
Oh, here, let me just
Thank you.
Bloomberg.
Okay.
I'll just post that in Discord. So did either of you have any questions about the Canadian election, or maybe if people in chat have anything they want to ask me?
Yeah. How on earth is it that the most racist candidate by country mile is apparently the Liberal Democrat or the Liberal candidate?
Because
I'm
Justin
the most.
Trudeau is just like... Anyway, so we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so
Can I have I have a question.
sure.
Will you know the winner by the end of the night?
Yeah, we'll probably know it like half an hour after the polls close.
Yeah, this
What
is way
time
different
do
from.
the
Oh, sorry.
polls close across the country at the same time, or do they
Um,
close in British?
It closes at
British
9.
Columbia.
On the
British
local
Columbia
region.
time 9. Okay, so
Whatever the
what
local
time is that
region
for
is.
you? Like midnight for you?
Probably 10:30, I think. We'll know once we get the results from Ontario. That'll basically
Is
be it.
Ontario the swing province?
Yeah. So let's just go into this a bit. Okay. So, I actually worked last federal election. I don't know how it works in the States, but in Canada, we Elections Canada hires people to run the polls. So I did one last election. So the ballots are just a lot simpler in Canada. Like on my station, I didn't have a single spoiled ballot or one that I couldn't read. We also just are better at counting ballots. So generally speaking, within like an hour or two, the results. So we're just gonna. So I have 338. I'll just put this up if you guys wanted to look at it. So this is kind of our version of election projection. So things have kind of been all over the place this election. The Liberals were ahead for most of it, but the debates really kind of shifted things. And the NDP, for those of you who don't know, they're the Socialist Party, picked up a lot of popular support as a result of the debates. People thought Jagmeet Singh performed really well. For what reason, I don't know. I guess just because he's like foreign and cool, or I don't really get it myself. But yeah, so they made a kind of an emergence. So there was a brief period where it looked like the Conservatives would actually get would actually win the most seats, but that's kind of turning against them. I don't know. It kind of swung back in the last couple days, but really no one knows what this election's going to be like. Um, it's kind of almost like the American election. Like, you guys would agree that we really had no idea what was going to happen, right? Election night.
Yeah. Well, most of the polls, of course, said, landslide win for Hillary Clinton. So,
is there any possibility whatsoever that the NDP might win?
No, none whatsoever. Here, we'll go through it. Okay, so I'll try to explain the situation a bit. So yeah, in the last couple days, it's gone from the Liberals have a 22% chance of winning a majority, and there's about a 50-50 chance of a conservative minority government. So let's see here. Okay, so that's...
So what are the chances that Trudeau is no longer prime minister?
Not very good.
because he could likely make a coalition with the NDP.
Uh, we'll get to that in a minute, the likely outcomes, but he probably won't because we just don't really have coalition governments in Canada.
So, are you a first past the post similar to the United States, or is it a blend of, say, a European parliamentary
No, it's
system?
first past the post, but we have more than two parties, so it just works very differently.
Okay.
Because in America, you need like I don't. I guess there's like some LARP libertarian or something like that candidate, but in Canada, you really only need like 34% of the popular vote to win a majority government. So here, I'm just going to pull this up. So the current projections for the popular vote are Liberals 32, Conservatives 32, NDP 18, Green 8, Bloc Québécois 7, and People's Party 3. So on the surface, it looks like they're tied, but that's not really how it works in Canadian politics. It's a bit like you know how in the U.S., California, New York, and Texas are like a third of the electoral college.
Yeah.
In Canada, Ontario, and British Columbia are half of the seats in Canada. So let's just scroll down and take a look at that. So if we look at the regional distribution, an issue the Conservatives have. People just let me know if you're like following this okay and everything's just working all right. An issue the Conservatives have is they just do a really good job of in Western Canada. The problem is there's only so many seats you can win, so there isn't really a difference between like 40% and 60% of the popular vote because it doesn't get you anything extra. So the Conservatives will probably win 60+% in Alberta and take every seat there, but it's kind of irrelevant because it's overkill. So it makes their it makes it look a lot bit higher in terms of the popular vote than it is. The issue is the Liberals have a large lead in Ontario, so that's a problem. The Conservatives only real. Sorry, go on.
I have a question regarding the popularity of Justin Trudeau. Has it declined quite a bit?
Since when?
Since his election, or
Yeah,
at
it's
least the
tanked.
past year?
It's just massively tanked.
Was there a point in time when he was a really, really, really popular university?
When he first got elected, it's been pretty much a steady gone down. It went down to like Doug Ford levels almost. In the after SNC Lavalin happened, but it's been pretty much a disaster.
I'm surprised it hasn't even gone further because since it came out, he's blackface.
Well, they don't care. Like he got Me Too, no one cared.
Mm-hmm. So, just another thing on how the actual voting works. So, is it sort of like in the States, or is it where so if you win a majority or a plurality in, say, Alberta, does that mean you get all of the seats?
It's individual districts like in the U.S. It's
Okay.
It's just in practice you need a much lower percentage of the popular vote because we have so many parties.
Okay.
Let me see here. Okay, someone's asking about Justin Trudeau blackface, so we're gonna pull this up. So yeah, so Justin Trudeau wore blackface multiple times. So there's a picture of him in blackface at an Arabian Nights party. There's a picture of him in blackface performing a Jamaican folk song. And I think there's some other ones. Some people said, raised some questions about, isn't that kind of like a minstrelly, getting dressed up as a black guy to do a song? But people are okay with that. They'll forgive this guy anything.
Yeah, I was thinking, not to be boomer conservative, but if Andrew Scheer had done that, he would be completely done.
Oh no, he would. Okay,
I
then
don't understand. I don't understand why people aren't freaked out by him. He seems to be like unstable.
like okay, so here's another. This is a picture from his trip to India, which is like some of the biggest fucking cringe I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, that makes me really uncomfortable when he went to India and did that.
He did like Bollywood dancing and stuff like that. But keep in mind,
Was it?
he's a
I think you
devout
were talking
Catholic.
about this where
How?
he went to somebody's funeral or something, and that he started crying about somebody he never met.
Yeah, okay, so my father is one of like the nicest. He's like a moderate conservative. He's like center right. And he hates Justin Trudeau more than I've seen just about anybody. Just because he's worked in education and he just really loves children. And I mean that, I don't mean that to sound creepy. He's worked in education, it's kind of his life's passion. And there was a family who died in a fire in Nova Scotia. So he went there and went to the funeral and he was like crying there. And that just made my father. I've very rarely seen my father that angry at anybody.
Well, even was it even worse when he didn't he like forgive and give money to a terrorist that killed Americans?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, wait a minute. This is another
going
funeral
right now. That gives you at
in
least
Nova Scotia. Okay, that's not even the right funeral. I guess there's a lot of them. But like, look at this fucking goofy shit. Like, what is this dude doing? Like, it's just such a fucking embarrassment.
Oddly enough, if you compare when Prime Minister Modi came to the U.S., like he looked kind of the opposite of Trudeau. He kind of looked based as fuck.
Well, Modi is based.
Mm-hmm.
People have asked me about how I feel about Hindu national. I have mixed feelings about Hindu nationalists. We can talk about that some other time.
Don't you mean just voting for Tulsi Gabbard?
Yes. Actually,
Can I say that Tulsi Gabbard, lust or whatever, is really cringe?
I find it less cringy than the AOC beta orbiting.
Yeah, but I think it's in the same ballpark of cringy.
So you genuinely think a lot of conservatives that constantly talk about how awful AOC is secretly think she's attractive? Because I don't see it. She looks horrifying.
No, they're obsessed with it. Okay, so I just want to cover a couple things this devout Catholic did. So Justin Trudeau. Okay, so in Canada, every year the federal government gives out a lot of money to subsidize organizations hiring summer students, so that they can get some work experience and they can earn money. I like it because I'd rather they get money. They'd rather have a chance to work than just have the money given to them. But so he said that anyone who receives the money has to sign a document stating they support abortion. So yeah, and they support. They also have to agree that they oppose discrimination against transsexuals. So he banned his first action upon becoming leader of the Liberal Party was banning anti-abortion candidates from running from office. So you have to sign a document stating you support unlimited abortion to run for the party. Keep in mind, Canada.
Are there devout Christians that support the Liberal Party?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Most
I
Catholics
didn't
vote
think
Liberal, I'm pretty sure.
that. Oh, I would think that
Well,
I
I
always
think
thought that Catholics would either be socialist or far right. I never thought that they would
I
be
think they
for a
almost
the
all are
neoliberal
problem
party.
liberal.
the problem is that when you say it's like in you know how in Protestantism you have the divide between say more conservative evangelicals and then the liberal mainline like the mainline Lutheran and Episcopalians. In the Catholic Church there isn't really there's that divide ideologically, but it's not like clear cut that they're all still considered Catholic, but like so if you were just baptized as a Catholic or confirmed as a Catholic at 12, but you don't really care about anything the Catholic Church says, you're just like, yeah, I'm Catholic because you like the sort of communal label, then that you're considered just as legit as a Catholic or as part of the Catholic bloc as me, who basically wants to eradicate the democratic process and install a new HRE here.
Okay, so 20. Let me just see here. Okay, so 20. Jews actually, for a somewhat lengthy period of time, voted majority conservative.
That's what's I think in like 80 to 90% of Jews in the United Kingdom vote.
I'm just trying to find. Okay, so the thing is, you have to keep in mind is the Conservative Party, as we know it today, grew out of the Loyalists. So a lot of Loyalists from the States moved to Canada, and the Conservatives were traditionally the. It wasn't so much like an ideological difference in all cases. It was the Conservatives emphasized the Anglo heritage of Canada and wanted more ties to the Republic. Sorry, to the Commonwealth, whereas the Liberals were more for biculturalism, if that makes sense. And along with that, the Liberals were traditionally based out of Quebec, and the Conservatives were based out of Ontario. So there's a lot of voting along ethnic lines.
But then you have the rise of, say, the Quebecois separatists.
Yeah, they were actually the branch of the Conservative Party. Um, yeah, it's weird. Let's see here. It's Quebec is weird. Quebec is the thing you have to keep in mind about Quebec is the political spectrum there isn't left right because all the parties are left wing at least until the last election. It's federalist or sovereigntist. So
Mm-hmm.
let's see here. I'm just trying to find a breakdown of religious voting.
Hey,
Yeah.
do you know what's church attendance stats in Canada?
Oh, it's fucking like atrocious.
No, I'm just wondering
I'd have to
because in the
look that up.
United States, it's like it registers as like 40% or something like that, but it's probably 20%.
Hmm. I'm just getting Earl of Grey to tweet this out. I mean to post this. Okay, there we go. Someone asked if I voted. Yes, I did go and vote. I voted actually a couple weeks ago in the advanced polls. So I always vote in advance. It's very easy to vote in Canada.
You voted Green Party, didn't you?
No, I voted conservative. I just
Okay.
decided. I just went out and did it. I think I can't really find it. Hindus, I think, occasionally voted majority conservative. Because they viewed them as being more anti-Muslim. So someone was asking about Andrew Scheer is pro-life and how he's leader of the Conservative Party. Um, Catholics who are Conservative Party officials say that they're pro-life personally, but there's nothing they can do about it. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
That it's not an issue they can realistically do anything about.
Can I say
Sure.
I'm not a massive Republican, but just to defend the Republican Party. On this,
You keep cutting out, man. Maybe turn down your mic sensitivity. Okay. Hopefully he'll get his.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you a bit better.
Is that a lot better,
Mm-hmm.
or is that just slightly better?
Yeah.
So I'm not a Republican, and I disagree with them on like a lot of issues. Actually, I don't think if anyone's familiar with my channel, that will surprise them. But to be fair to them, on the state level, they've actually won a lot of victories when it comes to abortion.
Yeah.
The state level Republican parties are actually won a lot of victories.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say religious attendance is in America?
The response to once a week is 40%, but if you go on to, it's believed that it's really over-reported. So, in the United States, people say they go to church more, and they'll say that they drink less, but they drink much more than they report, and they go to church much less than they report. So it's somewhere between 20 to 25% of it in reality, but it's officially 40% or something.
It's 13% in Canada for all
Officially,
faiths. Yes. I mean, in
that's
polls.
that's actually like that's worse than like large portions of Western
Guess
Europe.
what weekly mass attendance is for French Catholics?
5%.
Yes, you got that one right.
I think I said that because that means that they match France. I think.
English Catholics are higher, 20%. Evangelicals are 40%.
Yep.
Yeah, but to be fair, isn't Catholicism in Canada? There's no like. You're either there's Susan and there's the SSPX and there's nothing in between. Is that fair?
I don't know how much of an SSPX there is.
Well, I mean, even that's doesn't really even really matter because I know in the United States, at least, or because like the fringe Catholic movements that border on sedevacantist are really not are very small in number.
That's not true.
Really,
Where
I
I
haven't seen
live,
that.
there's like their sedevacantists are as big as continuing Anglicans. If that makes sense. And
Wait, are you in Canada or the U.S.?
I'm in the U.S. I'm in a
Okay.
pretty rural state.
Oh, here we go. We have some results. Let me just see if I can find these. Okay, so I think some results have come in from the Atlantic coast. Let's see here. Okay, this map is shit, so let me try to find a better one.
Can you send the links if you have them?
I'm just trying to find one that's actually being updated. Give me a minute. Okay, we'll go with the Toronto Star, which I hate, but we'll go with that. Oh, that's the wrong. Oh, whatever. Let's see here. Just post this. Okay, so let's see what the results are. So it looks like the Liberals kind of are doing really good in the Atlantic. Now, to be fair, I don't think the Conservatives had any seats there prior to the previous election. Okay, Kyle Dawson says, "Can I get a response to my dollar chat?" Okay, so his chat was any love for Tulsi Gabbard. I do like her trolling them on
I think that the
anti-war
lust for
stuff.
her is really creepy, and that she disagrees with them everything, include like her foreign policy is really bizarre. She's a GI Jane, and if you're right wing, you should be disgusted by GI Janes.
Right.
Can you expand on that?
By GI Janes?
Yes, I've never heard that before.
Do you think that women should serve in the military and
Oh,
combat
absolutely
roles?
not.
Okay, well, Tulsi Gabbard is a woman that completely like she wears her military service as a woman on her sleeve, and that just creeps me out. It's like, to
Okay.
me, a GI Jane is the same as a gay voting for a gay guy. It's just as creepy to me. A
Okay.
GI Jane is really creepy and dishinged to me.
Okay, so looking at the early results, it looks like the Conservatives actually took a couple seats in. Let me just see if I can find what it was at dissolution, because I don't think they had any seats in the Atlantic. Atlantic Canada is the part of the country that's most in favor. Um, Generally speaking, Canada and Ontario and the Atlantic are the most in favor of political centralization in Canada.
Hmm.
Because Eastern Canada is really poor, um, and they're just kind of dependent on welfare. Okay, so the Liberals won every seat in the Atlantic provinces. So it looks bad, and it is bad.
Wait, doesn't wait, doesn't say. Well, the one I show it says they won a couple in New Brunswick.
Yeah, New Brunswick is Atlantic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the provinces we have in the
I want to
east
keep
are all
it.
really small, so we just collectively refer to them as the Atlantic provinces.
Is that so? Is that does that include Prince Edward Island?
Yeah, like let me just look up how much the population is. So
Or so
all
what prop?
sorry, go on.
So what provinces is this? Is Newfoundland, Labrador, Newfoundland? Is it also Nova Scotia?
Yeah, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island.
Though it says New Brunswick, a couple conservative seats were won.
Yeah, I'm just saying last election they won 0.
Okay.
So the total population of the Maritimes or Atlantic Canada is 2 million. So
Mhm.
that's why it's grouped together. Like Newfoundland is only like, I think Halifax, Nova Scotia, I think is like 400,000 people. So it's smaller than Toronto, significantly smaller than Toronto. So we normally just group them together. So it looks like the Conservatives picked up a couple seats here. Let me see if any of
Is
these
that
are
a really
close.
good sign?
I can't tell yet.
Okay.
Okay, some of these are pretty close. Well, it's a sign they're going to do better than they did previously. The Conservatives never win seats in Newfoundland because there was some like nonsense. Okay, a true American hero says, "Can I get a round of applause for Jeb?" Okay, there we go.
Stop fapping.
Let's see here. It's kind of I don't entirely understand it, but I think Newfoundland had a whole bunch discovered a bunch of oil, and they I think their equalization payments got withdrawn or something, and they threw kind of a hissy fit about it, so now they won't vote conservative. A big thing in Canada is we have equalization, so we have and have not provinces, and the federal government takes money from have provinces and gives it to have not provinces.
How well does that work out?
It pisses a lot of people. It pisses everybody off except for Atlantic Canada and Quebec. Um, Alberta is kind of okay. So kind of how it works is for most of most almost every year since this has happened, Ontario has paid equalization to most of the rest of the country. Alberta is a boom and bust province, so it sometimes takes equalization and sometimes doesn't. And kind of the a point of resentment is Alberta refuses to pay whenever it's in like a have province. It gets really mad about paying its share of equalization. And it kind of pisses people off in Ontario because we feel we subsidize them through bad times, and it's kind of their turn to pay the money, but they refuse to. So you guys don't have anything like that in the States, I don't think.
No, well, because the United States is
Um,
already a substantially more
so
decentralized.
no, so liberals will complain. I don't know what state you live in, Fritz.
New York.
Okay, so you live in New York and I live in Montana. So when you're in Montana, liberals will constantly say in Montana, everything we do is paid for by states like New York and California. They pay way more in taxes and they pay for us to have roads.
Hmm.
So constantly, my entire life, I've been told by liberals that live here or Democrats or what progressives, if they want to call themselves that, that you are completely subsidized by liberal states and all you do is spit in their face.
Okay, sorry. Someone's asking me about getting rid of the CBC. Okay, so the CBC is basically a propaganda organ for the left. Um, it's just like it's like the BBC, but worse. It's just kind of, and it receives so much state funding. It's very hard for any kind of independent media to compete. Like when they tried to open Sun News, which eventually became the Rebel, I think like they tried to like they couldn't get added to basic cable, and like they faced all these legal problems, and the CBC just receives massive amounts of subsidies from the government. So yeah, that's kind of the issue. So it's been a long term dream of conservatives to defund it, so that the left's main propaganda organ will stop receiving money. So looking at these seats in, it's kind of no, it's not super close. Um, I hope mine switches back conservative because I had a really good MP, but they lost last time. Last time was really pathetic because they basically gave up and just were like, we're not going to beat Justin, so why even try? So, yeah. We need to make the CBC into a third. Without the CBC, would not Canada just be dominated by American media? I mean, there's like CTV and stuff. It's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. There isn't really any independent media in Canada because the federal government so heavily controls it. But on the other hand, I guess that's a legitimate argument that if they didn't heavily control it, there wouldn't be any. So it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing.
Okay, if you mention how biased the CDC is, or CBC, sorry, do people just say, but we'll lose all the TV shows?
Yeah, we'll lose Coronation Street.
Okay,
What the hell
so
is that?
that's
Um, Although CBC lost Hockey Night in Canada
Here's a good
because they couldn't get their shit together. Um, Remember how PBS is like, oh, we'll shut down Sesame Street.
no, I didn't pay attention to that.
Oh, okay. No, that was like we can't defund PBS or else we'll lose Sesame Street. I'm like, but Sesame Street makes like an absurd amount of money on a yearly basis.
Sesame Street's been around for like 50 years.
No, Sesame Street
You
makes
know,
a lot
it's
of
the
money.
interesting.
What?
You know what makes the most money in like television and YouTube and stuff like that in the US?
Kids stuff?
Kids stuff, because they don't avoid commercials.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see here. Okay, so someone's asking about blue and red. So everywhere else on Earth that I know of, other than America, red is liberal and no, well, red is socialist normally, and blue is conservative, and liberal is normally yellow, at least in Europe. Um, Probably the worst thing the CBC's ever made, other than Kim's, is Little Mosque on the Prairie.
What?
No, that's
What
that.
is this?
No, it's you guys know Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they made Little Moscow. Actually, when I worked at a museum, they had it was like a it was a last summer. It was a sort of, how do I describe it? It's like a living village museum where, or it's a working museum in which it's like a recreation of a village from my part of the country, from uh, the mid throughout the 19th century. And they had a whole bunch of events there, and one of them was they had one of the actresses from Little House on the Prairie show up, and it was kind of endearing because it was just like a bunch of people saying, "Hey, it was great watching growing up watching your show because it was so wholesome and nice." Oh wait, conservatives just won a seat in Nova Scotia.
Okay, look at that in a minute. The funny thing, from my understanding about Little Mosque on the Prairie, is it's like really racist. Like the darker your skin is, the stupider you are. So,
So it reflects reality.
so like the light skinned Syrians, like the smartest guy, and then like the Bangladeshis, like the dumbest guy. Um, no, the Jamaican's the dumbest guy. Then the Bangladeshi. So yeah, no, this is a real thing. This is something they actually produced. Uh,
I
How many people watched it? Is it just gets funded and nobody watches
yeah, I
it?
don't think anybody watches. I don't know if anyone watches Kim's either.
What is Kim's?
Somebody says Quarter Gas is a good show. Quarter Gas is like okay. It's like mediocre Canadian
I
program.
want to know what Kim's is.
It's like this shitty. I don't know. It's like about a Korean corner store.
Fascinating.
It's one of
Is it?
those
Is it?
it's like a nationalism for thee, but not for me. Oh, then there's the one about the Mennonite. There's the one attacking like Mennonites and like
They're like the nicest people, though.
No, they aren't.
Have you met some?
Yeah, I did. I met Arjun.
Okay. They're like Amish, but they're allowed to use cars.
Where I live, there's a lot of Hutterites,
Hutterites.
and that they're like the most hated minority of all.
Although they're apparently very advanced when it comes to agriculture.
Yeah, they're pretty self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Let me look at. Okay, Korean owned corner store. That one is bad. Any shows about white people in Canada? Let's see here. Yeah, so my mother's family, they're from a couple different places. Some of them are from Alsace Lorraine.
No,
Um,
no, no. It's Elsass Lothringen.
my some of my mother's family, and they're the ones I tend to talk about, were Volga Germans from the Soviet Union. Or I guess it was Russia because they left. They left right when the revolution happened, before the anarchists started massacring all the Volga Germans.
Mm-hmm.
So I always bring that up when people complain about whatever happened to my ancestors. It's interesting though because my grandparents and great grandparents are like fanatically loyal to the Tsar.
Based.
Like my grandparents love the Tsar, even though they never lived in Russia. It's funny because they hate Catholics. They think Catholics are worse than Muslims in their opinion. Um, we just tell them I'm Anglican.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, CBC is garbage. I
Are
remember
they Orthodox?
No, they're Mennonite.
Okay. Yeah, two of my German ancestors who were from I had two great grandparents from Germany. They were from the Black Forest. They were Mennonites.
There's a lot of Germans who used to live in Russia because Catherine the Great brought in a bunch to settle.
And she
So
was German herself.
yeah, so well, Russia just has a ton of empty land. So they gave them a bunch of land. So the Mennonites paid very heavy taxes, but they were exempt from military service. Um, Actually, it's too bad I didn't spend more time around my great grandmother. Because, like, one of the stories they told was when they tried to resettle some Volga Germans in the Caucasus, and, like, Chechens burned down their farm and chased them out.
Hmm.
So,
The only interesting story about my great grandmother, who was from northern Italy, so the nice part of Italy, is that apparently this is how racist North Italians are about Sicilians. Is that like her dad went over first, and then when she was coming over, he says, "Look, Cecilia. When you come to America, I don't care who you marry. You can marry a Christian, a Jew, a white man, a black man. Don't you fucking dare marry a man from Sicily."
let's see here. So, yeah, that's my mother's family, and then my father's family are mostly English. Although I think one of my great grandfathers was also from Alsace.
Mm.
So
The both sides of my parents are mostly just English settlers from the 1600s. Though my dad's side, there's a lot more information we have because there's a whole book of our family, like with our family crest of when we came. It goes back to when we invaded with William the Conqueror from Normandy and became knights in service of the English crown and slaughtered Frenchmen in the Hundred Years' War.
yeah, my the furthest back I can trace my patrilineal is to the Norman. Oh, can we start the election analysis again? Sorry guys, I just was I'm gonna invite somebody else on. You know, guys don't have to leave. I'm just inviting somebody who
There's
is
just
gonna.
not much happening.
Yeah,
Though,
that's
yeah,
why I'm rambling about other stuff. Okay,
it
there
does
you
seem
go,
the
Settlers
conservatives have one of
Lament. Just join the Discord group.
It does seem like conservatives have won a few seats in the Atlantic region.
Yeah. So there's not a ton. Oh, the Greens might have picked up a seat. Interesting. So
Fredericton.
something that's kind of been happening over the last couple of years is the Green Party has gradually been gaining some steam, particularly in the Atlantic region. It's the two kind of sides of the country. Oh, okay. We have the first results from Quebec coming in. So it looks like the bloc is picking up a seat there. In
Not a surprise.
Okay. Maybe I'll talk a bit about the bloc Quebecois. So the bloc. So what happened was, let me just go to this Canadian election. Election. Okay, so what happened during the 1980s was Brian Mulroney won the biggest majority government in the history of Canada. I think he was the only person to ever win more than 50% of the vote.
Conservative or liberal?
Conservative. He succeeded in, yeah, basically winning most of Canada's seats. He was a Irish Catholic from Quebec. So the Conservatives won a huge number of seats in Quebec, in part because they promised to give Quebec a bunch of concessions and that sort of thing. So Mulroney won a whole bunch of seats there, and then they lost a couple in 1988. But what wound up happening is the western wing of the Conservative Party broke off and formed the Reform Party that eventually became the Alliance Party. And then the Quebec wing broke off and formed the Bloc Québécois. So you actually had a scenario in the 1993 election where the Conservatives went from, let's see here, they went from
Hmm. Mm-hmm. So not most of Quebec isn't it like most of the area of Quebec is fairly uninhabited except for the area around the St. Lawrence. It's all basically huddled near the United States border. Wouldn't you love to live in Alert though, the northernmost city in the world that's on top of one of the Northwest Territories' giant islands? Top of- Hmm. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Okay. Hey, sorry, I'm just here now. And yes, the bloc. They were actually the first founding member was a progressive conservative. So yeah, they've always been kind of weird. Though they're mostly anti-immigration socialists. So I wouldn't really consider them to be good. They love abortion and everything.
And I can I can hear you.
Yeah.
They're saying they can hear everyone but you, Argent. Real Fritz hours now. This is my stream, buddies. I have nothing. I have no idea what to say.
The progressive conservatives that I'll answer this question for this guy in the chat. They don't exist at the federal level anymore. They were a party that were formed in the 1940s, I think. They were a combination of the Progressive Party, which was a party mainly in the west of Canada. It existed all across, but was mainly popular in the west, and the Conservative Party, because the Liberals were in power, so they just got together and formed their own party so they could take power. I know it sounds like a ridiculous combination, but it is. I mean, it is from a time when progressive had a slightly different definition. It's more referring to like Teddy Roosevelt progressivism. But yeah, that was the main conservative party from like the 1940s until 2003.
Hmm. Are you from Canada?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They still exist on the provincial level, but they don't exist in the federal level anymore. And the bloc was founded by a progressive conservative and some liberals that defected from those parties. Me? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, basically, I don't know. I mean, It all sucks so much that I'm kind of just okay with it. Um, I probably would be more upset if I actually liked the Conservative Party, but they're so worthless that I don't care if they lose today, and they probably will. And that's probably for the best, honestly. Um, the Conservative Party in Canada, I haven't listened to this whole stream, I've just been listening for like the past 10 minutes, so I don't know if I'm retreading old ground, but the Conservative Party in Canada is completely worthless. They're, as I was saying in the chat earlier, they're a radically pro-abortion party. They are far more pro-abortion than the Democratic Party is in the States, and the Democrats are pretty pro-abortion. The Conservative Party will literally kick out any MP that's a Conservative candidate if they quote unquote reopen the abortion debate in Parliament.
So essentially, does their point in existing is just to support free markets?
Yeah, basically. Well, it's actually it's even more nefarious than that, because like all my socially conservative, I'm Catholic, so all my socially conservative friends, my like just sort of normie church going Catholics, they all vote for the Conservative Party, thinking that they're some sort of conservative party. But they aren't. They do rely on socially conservative votes, because that still does make up like 15-20% of the electorate, a ever shrinking amount, but it's still enough to matter.
Well, it's probably not your mic, because we can hear you fine.
No one can hear Argent.
Yeah, no one can hear him apparently, except for us. Or they in the chat.
No, I know that. I'm asking them right now if they can hear me. The chat. Yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone can hear still.
Chat, can you hear Argent yet? I just asked them.
So I mean, so their whole point in existence is free market.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah. Well, again, that's the thing. They do rely on socially conservative voters, and in the more socially conservative parts of Canada, the local MPs they'll tell their constituents, they'll tell them, oh, I'm a pro-lifer, I'm pro-life, I hate abortion, I'm going to do everything I can to stop it. But then when they actually get to Ottawa, they can do literally nothing, and if they try to do anything, they'll literally get thrown out of the party.
How much power does the Supreme Court in Canada have, though?
Well, I'm talking about the Conservative Party throwing them out, not the Supreme Court.
No, let's say some renegade were able to take over. Some renegade Trump were able to become PM or something. Even then, would the Conservative Party just be like how Trump is in the United States? Trump can't do anything because the Supreme Court is more powerful than the executive branch.
Yeah, something similar would probably happen, but we really haven't had any social conservative, any governments that really tried to implement anything socially conservative, so it's not really tested even. We did have gay marriage from elections, not from the Supreme Court. It actually was kind of funny. The Liberal government back in like 2005, they actually went to the Supreme Court and asked them, "Hey, is this is like gay marriage?"
Oh, wait a minute.
Mandated.
Oh, can people hear me now? Oh, I guess they can.
Everybody says they can't hear you.
Oh, people are saying they can.
But you haven't
now.
been talking. Okay.
So can they hear him now?
Apparently.
Okay. But yeah, So in like 2005, the Liberals went to the Supreme Court and asked them if abortion was constitutionally mandated, and the Supreme Court just told the Liberal Party that there's no point in asking us this question. You have a majority, you can pass it if you want to, and then they did that. I mean, we did get euthanasia, I think, from the Supreme Court back when Harper was in charge. Though we didn't actually get a bill passed to govern euthanasia until Justin Trudeau was in charge. Yeah, we don't have that much stuff. The Supreme Court is all awful in Canada. It actually was the majority of the Supreme Court currently, I believe, was appointed by Stephen Harper, our last conservative, quote unquote, prime minister. But they're all radical leftists. So yeah, basically, my main diagnosis of the situation: the Conservative Party is completely worthless. The Andrew Scheer, the leader, has said that he thinks Justin Trudeau's immigration numbers are reasonable. And we need, if anything is good is going to happen in Canada, we need a different party in charge.
Keep in mind that as radical as Justin and Jagmeet seem, they're nowhere near as radical as the Democratic Party candidates. Just keep that in mind.
How do you mean that?
I haven't heard Justin Trudeau say he just wants there to be no border whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I haven't the stuff that they were saying.
I mean,
in
the
debates.
the Jasmeet Singh wants us to take America's reject quote unquote refugees.
Yeah, I guess. But like
So
Justin,
gamers?
I haven't heard say anything nearly as radical.
Yeah, that is fair, though. I mean, I think most of the 2020 Democrats would moderate somewhat if they actually were close to power.
Yeah. Refugees
the more-
aren't super popular in Canada. They are. It's just not super high on the list.
To be fair, hasn't Warren actually become more moderate since she started running for president, or am I remembering improperly?
I don't think she can remember properly what position she has because she's, 98 years old?
I know, and I know I'm kind of outing myself by saying this, but I do listen to Ben Shapiro occasionally, and he constantly goes on about how Elizabeth Warren was much more moderate in her earlier days.
Oh, okay. So it's the opposite. I know
Yeah.
that Beto O'Rourke is continuing to get more and more radical, uncontrollably so.
Someone was asking how radical the Liberal Party is. I'd actually call the Liberal Party like far left on social issues. Like something they did was they refused to prosecute returning members of ISIS. They said it was like diversity, and they compared it to Italian and Greek immigrants. That people didn't accept them. Actually, let me see if I can find that clip.
Yeah, it is somewhat difficult to classify because, I mean, on economic issues, the Liberal Party is just a centrist party. But they are, when it comes to sort of harder to define social issues, they seem to be very radical.
Okay, here, I'm gonna just play this.
A little heckling out here, so appreciate you coming.
Okay, give me a second. I guess you guys can't hear this, but that's okay. I'll tell you when it's over.
It's a little heckling out here, so appreciate you coming. I just want to know how your stance on ISIS is going to help Canadians in any way. I need to know how you're going to protect future Canadians, like my young daughter, and 10, 15, 20 years from now, when you're letting people in with an ideology that just does not conform to what we're doing here. So, I'd really like to know what your take on things.
Absolutely. No, I think that's gives me an opportunity to talk about first of all, the fact that one of the reasons Canada is successful as a country is because we have been open to people fleeing persecution, fleeing war zones, looking for a better life for themselves and their kids. That's been the story of this country from the time the first European settlers came to be received by Indigenous people. People were fleeing conflict, poverty, difficult situations, and came to Canada to build a better life for themselves. And successive waves of people have in every different time and every different wave. And when we welcomed in waves of refugees, whether it was the Ismaili refugees in the early 70s, whether it was the Vietnamese boat people in the early 80s, whether it was people fleeing the devastation of the Second World War from Southern Europe in the 50s and 60s, the Italian communities, the Greek communities, the Portuguese communities, and others, our country is so much the better for it. And there is a sense at one point that,
So what about
okay,
thoughts
maybe
on the
now that's enough.
PPC?
Oh, just
Maybe
give
we
it a
have
second.
just about all the
Just
diversity we
finish
can
it.
handle, and we shouldn't have any more. Well, I can tell you, when Italian families settled in Montreal in the post-war years, they faced terrible discrimination and people who pushed back at them and said, no, 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 you don't belong here, you don't speak English or French. Every wave of immigration has faced pushback because of how they dressed or how they sounded or what their belief was, what their religion was. And every wave of immigration has led to Canada being a better,
Oh, this is nice.
stronger,
Somebody
more
advocated
resilient,
for
richer
putting
country.
their grandparents in cages so they can't vote conservative.
Yeah, so that was the clip of Justin Trudeau comparing returning ISIS members to Greek immigrants. I mean, I don't really see how you can interpret it any other way. Okay, if I sound a bit sleepy, people, it's because I had to route the audio from my mic through my desktop, so it's just kind of weird to hear myself talk.
Why is you're going to be loading Nick Fuente's video now?
Oh no, okay, that's fixed.
But what do you think about the idea of locking up your grandparents in cages so they're not allowed to?
I don't know. That's mean.
I know. So it does seem like conservatives have won either 5 or 6 seats in the Atlantic region, where they apparently didn't win any last time.
No, they won one last time. They won a couple this time though. So that's, I don't know, kind of a good. At least maybe it'd be good if Trudeau got a minority government.
It would make it so he can't really do much.
Yeah, but then again, he might have to. Then he might have to depend upon support from the NDP, and that could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
So far, and according to the polls, is the Liberals doing worse because the original support for Trudeau is shifting to the NDP, and the Conservatives remain the same, or is support switch from Trudeau to Conservatives?
Yes, support for the Conservatives stays pretty similar and doesn't really move regardless of the province in most cases. It's why they were so opposed to implementing any kind of non first past the post voting. Because under any non first past the voting system, the Conservatives would not be able to ever form a government.
Mm-hmm.
Because they really just need to pick up like 36% of the vote to win a majority.
Is there, so say if somehow they won a majority tonight, what would happen tomorrow? Would it be just as bad as when Trump won in 2016 with protests and stuff and calls to amend the Constitution?
Yeah, I mean, the left in Canada, despite the Conservative Party being completely worthless, they still think that Andrew Scheer is literally Hitler. I mean, just the other day, I saw this girl on my Facebook page saying that, completely unironically, saying that you need to vote for the Liberal Party because if Andrew Scheer gets in, he's going to completely take away women's rights.
If
And I don't even know what she means by that.
I wish she would.
I don't even know what she means by that, but I'm assuming she's talking about abortion. Though, as I've already said, he would literally kick someone out of the party for proposing anything in
I
parliament.
love how womanhood has just been reduced to abortion. Like that's the only women's issue. There's no other women's issues.
And it's,
other
of
than
course, in
abortion.
reality, an issue that doesn't have to do with herself.
Like women's health is not having children. It's not breast cancer. It's just abortion.
But
women
but
shouldn't have kids.
yeah, despite the Conservative Party being cucked beyond belief, the leftist derangement syndrome is still very real, and they still unironically refer to him as a fascist and a Nazi and stuff. Honestly, it's the only reason I would ever consider voting Conservative again is just
Did
to
you vote
make
for
those people cry.
What's the party that can't win? That's to the right of the Conservative Party.
The PPC is the new sort of dissident right party.
Did you vote for them?
Yeah, they.
Okay.
As I think I've expressed thus far, I hate the Conservative Party. And the PPC. I mean, they're not even that great. They're kind of libertarian at its core. Though Maxime Bernier, the leader, he's definitely a libertarian, but he's kind of caught wind of the whole right-wing populist stuff, and I think he's just figured out that it's a winning strategy, or at least it's a strategy that can get him some support, where libertarianism isn't. So he's sort of adopted the very moderate anti-immigration stuff.
Okay. Are they going to be able to pick up a single seat?
Yeah, his home seats they're probably going to win, but that's the only one.
Are they on the ballot in every province?
Yes,
yeah,
in
they have
every
they're
riding,
in about 90% of seats.
Okay.
They
are
initially
a national
had
party.
we have 338 ridings. They initially had someone in every single riding, but they ended up having to kick out a bunch of people because they literally just accepted anyone that would sign up, basically. So a lot of people either left or some people were kicked out.
So this sounds somewhat similar to what happened with the AFD in Germany, where they originally just started as an economically liberal sort of anti-EU party that just sort of ballooned because of support of anti-immigration.
Yeah, basically. And
hey, the AFD is the third biggest party in Germany now.
Yeah, the PPC, their radical immigration proposal is 150,000 immigrants a year, which, it is radical compared to the establishment parties, because the establishment parties want 350,000 a year. But that would put it proportionately on par with the US or the UK, approximately.
The NDP and some other people tried to get Bernier banned from debates because they said his idea of limiting total immigration was racist and should not be allowed to be spoken about in public.
I remember that clip from the debate when Singh just said to him, to Bernier, like, it's something like, it's just a shame that you're even allowed to speak up here. Like, you should have no right to even be able to, talk.
Mm-hmm.
Singh is Sikh, right?
Yeah. Well, he loves abortion and stuff. I don't think he's really Sikh. He's a Punjabi ethnic.
He's an ethno, yeah.
He started apparently he didn't care at all about it, from what people tell me, until he ran for office, and then they made him exotic and oriental. So he jumped
Justin
back
Trudeau is a devout Catholic and has been so his entire life.
Yep.
How?
Okay,
that's what the CBC said. Okay, they're infallible.
Okay, the only time I've ever felt sorry for Pope Francis is when Justin Trudeau met him, and he's like, I taught the head of my religion a bunch of stuff about the faith. And I'm like, as much as I hate Pope Francis, being lectured by Justin Trudeau is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
Well, it reminds me of when he went to Ireland and the gay prime minister basically said, basically essentially laughed in his face, saying look, Ireland has completely changed. It's not a nice Catholic country anymore. And that's sort of it makes me more angry at the Pope of any real Pope, or I do believe he is a legitimate Pope. He just kind of sucks at it. A Pope with some balls would just say, "Go fuck yourself." That's a phrase that's not used nearly enough by the right.
It pisses me off that they don't publicly excommunicate Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, it's something that's only selectively done by a few conservative bishops in the United States, but when in reality, technically, if pressed, people will say, well, he basically has excommunicated himself. Right? He should himself know he shouldn't be taking communion, but clearly...
Isn't excommunication a public act, though?
No, there is such a thing as an implicit self-excommunication.
No, I'm arguing for the power, the actual power.
Oh, yes, they can, and they ought to.
It's a political tool that has to be used publicly. The idea of an ipso facto excommunication, I'm not acknowledging that doesn't happen and that God doesn't give the revoked graces or something in an ipso facto, but I'm saying that there's no effectiveness to just be, it's ipso facto. He's not part of the church anymore, when the church never acknowledges this at any one point.
Yeah, that's that's preaching to the choir that most conservative or traditional leaning Catholics are. That is another thing that we're kind of upset about in the state of the modern church. the only hope is that it seems like the idea that, oh well, Gen Z is going to save everybody, that that pipe dream is a little more true within the Catholic Church, because it is true that like there is definitely a trend of younger priests being a lot more conservative. And it's weird because I know like a 30 or 40-year-old priest that I know, like the 30 to 40-year-old priests that I know tend to be substantially more conservative. The 60 and 70-year-old priests are very, very liberal, and then like the 90-year-old priests are really conservative. So it's very, you can kind of clearly tell what priests are part of the Vatican II culture and which ones aren't. Were born either way after or before.
Like I'm kind of an anti-clericalist in a lot of ways, and I don't really like it. But I feel like in the case of Justin Trudeau, he's so egregious and so horrible that they need to publicly excommunicate him.
The bishop in charge of his area actually did publicly discuss that back when he kicked out all the pro-life members from the Liberal Party, but they didn't end up doing anything. And it like this excommunication stuff, it actually is more important than just for the principle of expressing to everyone murdering babies is bad. Justin Trudeau should be excommunicated for his own fate just as much as the babies that are being murdered too. He's not going to heaven as long as he's acting the way he is. And if anyone actually cares about his soul, his shepherd should express that.
I mean, isn't there reasons outside of abortion for him to be excommunicated?
Yes,
yeah. I mean, that's the biggest one, but I mean, you're not allowed to support gay marriage and be Catholic either.
No, I'm saying
there's a million reasons.
Isn't his just his foreign policy? Let's say if we are truly traditional Catholics, his foreign policy and the way that he acts. So I don't know if you guys know.
Oh,
this.
sorry, if I could just interrupt for a second. Do you think his trip to India would be grounds for excommunication?
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Maybe that would be proof that he's not an.
Like he prayed at Indian sites and did like Indian religious rituals.
That would be.
He's also attended mosques.
Apostasy. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying is that he's committed acts of public apostasy, and that he seems to like. His like political view, like his foreign policy and his understanding of the state are really incompatible with Catholicism.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly less familiar with that stuff, but I don't think there's any lack of reasons to excommunicate him.
I still
like
think for me,
here I'm gonna
go ahead.
Bring up a picture. Like here's him taking part in some Indian religious rituals.
For me, though, even though it has nothing to do with me personally, because none of my ancestors were in World War I, or even less so, were not Canadian veterans of World War I. But isn't Under All Thy Sons' Command a reference to the Canadian vets of World War I?
It was initially at All of Thy Command, but they changed it to at All Our Sons' Command because of World War I, and then Justin Trudeau changed it back because he's a massive. Well, I can't say that word on YouTube, but you know what I mean.
It's not in All Thy Command, isn't it in All of Us Command now?
Yeah, I forget because it sounds horrible.
I mean, I don't sing our national anthem very regularly, but when I do, I always insist on singing it All Thy Sons.
There's some towns in Ontario where they've started to ban the national anthem from being sung at council meetings because it says God in it. And they claim it violates separation of church and state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Canada's never had separation of church and state. We officially have Catholic schools paid for by the government. That's an American concept.
Separation of church and state within. It's not in your constitution. It's not explicitly outlined.
Mm-hmm. It does remind me that Canadians were kind of like proportionally really badass in World War I. Because I got the new Sabaton album this summer, and one of the songs is about, I guess, probably the highest kill rate sniper sharpshooter in history, Francis Pegamagapo, who had legitimately or unironically like over 300 confirmed kills.
Okay, so this is how cuck Canada is. Okay, so the reason we changed national anthem is because some dude really, really like has wanted to do this for like the last 30 years, and he was dying of cancer, so they changed it so it would make his dream come true. That's literally the reason.
He seemed like the type of person that would prefer instead just to be able to see the new Star Wars movie before everybody else
Like,
instead.
what the fuck is that? Some dude is dying, and it was his dream to change it, so they fucking changed the national anthem. Like, that's fucking clown world.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I still haven't seen Joker. I thought everyone would want to know that.
Okay, is the Green Party or the NDP worse?
The NDP's worse.
What differentiates them from the Liberals? Is it just because they're more extreme?
They're
Yeah,
more
the
radical,
Green Party
and
wants to
because the
completely
Liberals
shut
are kind
down-
of centrist economically, the Liberals sometimes have to make like pragmatic decisions to keep the country's economy running properly, whereas the NDP and Greens don't.
Okay.
Yeah, the Green Party wants to completely shut down. They want to completely shut down the oil sands in Alberta, and they don't want to ever build any new oil pipelines. Or
So
anything like that.
so in short, they want to collapse the Canadian.
Yes.
Yeah, the Liberal Party, they support some pipelines. The NDP oppose all current pipelines, but they say they in principle would support a pipeline if they got all their union regulations they wanted.
Here, could you invite him if you think it's appropriate?
Is it
The one that likes
Turkarian?
castles. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Who doesn't like castles?
Can I ask? So, in the United States, the entire year of 2016 was very, very, very intense.
Mm-hmm.
Fritz, would you agree with me?
Yes.
Was your day-to-day life affected by the outcomes of the primaries and coming presidential election throughout the entirety of 2016?
No, not at all.
You didn't have people tell you something every day and people being
No, well, it's
afraid
because
of...
I graduated from. I heard just some weird stuff like about Trump or whatever when during like I graduated in 2016, right? From college, and so I spent most of the rest of 2016 just sort of hanging out and looking and doing some odd jobs and looking for work. So I was not. Unfortunately, I was not in college anymore during the election because I would have loved to. Because I actually bought a Trump T-shirt, and I thought I should get this. I should have worn this if I was still in college, just to see what would happen.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, just figured as a fellow Canuck, I couldn't miss this.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you vote for today?
I voted Christian Heritage, so LARPy vote. In my riding, there is no possibility of the Conservatives winning. It has always been NDP Liberal, NDP Liberal, NDP Liberal. And so I decided to just do a LARPy vote. Christian Heritage is great. They're completely opposed to abortion, completely opposed to gay marriage, and all that social engineering nonsense. And it's pretty much all they care about. And really, at this point, it's the only thing. What's the most important thing to me? So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you guys know, I can't really talk at the same time as anyone else. Just I had to route my audio through my desktop, so if I listen to myself, that's kind of when I lag, and because it's difficult to listen to yourself while you're talking, so I just take my headphones off when I talk. So just FYI.
So wait, are you Catholic, Tyrillian?
Yeah, I am. I'm
Okay.
I'm a
So
pretty
most of
serious
us-
Catholic. Yeah.
All right, cool. I have been since Pentecost 2018.
Yeah, I was baptized, confirmed, and communed all in one day, June 28th, 2015.
I was raised in a Northern Baptist. I live in New York, and so I was baptized at 12, became an evangelical, and then started going. And then like as soon as when I started talking to people on through YouTube and online, I eventually got uh, convinced that biblically and historically, the Catholic Church is the church. It has made a few difficulties because my dad, who was baptized as a baby, got baptized again at our old evangelical church, and of course, I didn't attend, and like I had a big problem with that, but because I don't believe in second baptisms.
Based in
Yeah, of
Munster
course.
Pill.
Hmm.
Based in Munster Pill.
I still can't hear you.
Munster. He said Munster. He was referring to the Anabaptist revolt in Munster.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, the funniest thing is I'm very Anglo. I'm pretty much outside of a great grandma from Italy who became Baptist as well. I'm pretty much the first Catholic in my family in 500 years. So most of my English ancestors are probably, hopefully they're in heaven because we hope we're all supposed to go to heaven. They were probably really furious at me because I betrayed my whole wasp ancestry. I betrayed my whole wasp ancestry to become a
Oh,
wasp.
sorry, I just interrupt for a
It's
second. Okay, so this is an article from NPS about changing the lyrics. So, let's see here. The bill was introduced in the House of Commons in early 2016 and passed there in June of this year. It was the dying wish of Liberal MP Maurel Belanger. The Canadian Press reports Belanger pushed the legislation for years, but it took on far greater urgency after he was diagnosed with ALS. So they literally just passed it because this dude was dying and he wanted it. It's like make a fucking wish. Okay, would you guys say that's Clown World?
Yes. I
It's
can't
also
think of
Chaos
much.
Theory.
Well, I mean,
I can't
the
think of
Liberal
many.
Part, the Liberal Party obviously already wanted to do that. It was just an excuse.
It was just a way to browbeat conservatives. Hey, you're an awful person. Look at this dying man. You can't say no to a dying man.
Something I wish is that there was a Green Conservative Party, because if there's like a Green Conservative Party, I'd probably vote for it. Like if there was a socially conservative Green Party. It's really sad that environmentalism's become associated with the left, because I think when you think of like nationalism or right-wing political thought, I mean blood and soil and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's probably so that they don't alienate big business. They don't want to alienate too many people by appealing to too many people.
I know, but it makes me sad. Because I like animals.
Okay, trying to think of what that would make you. Okay, decent human being.
I don't know. It's almost kind of a religious thing for me. I just love the beauty of God's creation in terms of just kind of the amazing things He's made.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
So we should be getting results in from the rest of Canada soon.
How far has it gone according to projections so far?
I'm not sure. Let me look.
Is there like a province by province projection map like there is before U.S. elections?
That now. So the Liberals were projected to get 24 seats in Atlantic Canada, and they got 24, and the Conservatives got actually more than they were. The Conservatives were expected to get 5, and they got 6. The NDP underperformed. So yeah, it's gone pretty much exactly as to projections.
Is the
I think
projection that nobody's going to gain a majority and there'll be another election? Is that what you think's going to happen?
Minority governments can go on for a long time.
Yeah, that's not how it works in Canada. We have minority governments all the time. You don't need to get a majority to.
But are they basically
last.
worthless?
No, because sometimes they make coalitions. So the Liberals and NDP have said that they are going to make a coalition if.
I thought they keep
the
going
Liberals
back
get a
and
minority.
forth on that one.
Yeah, the Liberals have not said they definitely would. They have just said that they would consider it. But we actually, Canada's never had a coalition government at the federal level. That's not necessary. It's
Outside of wartime.
Yeah. We kind of have a strange system where a government can last having just a plurality of seats, and no one will, but there'll be parties that won't vote against them in confidence motions, but they won't be officially coalition governments either. I don't really know of any other country that does that. I know they don't do that in the UK. Really, they always have coalitions when a biggest party only has the plurality. But yeah, what it looks like to me currently is that the Liberals will get a plurality of seats, and if that happens, then they probably won't want to form a coalition with the NDP.
Now, there's different types of coalitions. There's a full coalition, in which case the NDP would get cabinet posts, which is probably not going to happen. And then you have supply and confidence, in which the NDP agrees to vote with the Liberals on any confidence issue. And in exchange for that, they will probably just have to fulfill some of the NDP's policies.
Yeah, something like that is probably what will happen. And just with how the results look currently, I think it seems like a safe bet for a Liberal minority. Really, the most interesting elections to watch now is just, Maxime Bernier's home district, if he keeps that seat.
So how it works in Canada is you stay in government until you lose a confidence vote, which I think budget is, certain laws are. It's kind of complicated. What the Conservatives did when they had their 3-year-long minority government is they didn't have any confidence votes. Everything was just a free vote. So they were able to get around that.
I see.
So is there currently a minority government now?
No, the Liberals had a small majority. Basically, what happened is the Conservatives completely gave up last election and made no real attempt to win, and they got massacred.
Oh gosh, do you remember their campaign? How lukewarm it was. It was like
so
this.
shitty.
He's just not ready. Justin Trudeau's just not ready. We're not saying he can't win eventually, just not now. But he has great hair. That was their approach.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. What kind of a guy does blackface? It's fucking weird.
I didn't even know it was a real thing until people started getting I didn't know that blackface was a thing until
Stefan
they found
Molyneux has
pictures
a theory.
of people doing it.
Stefan Molyneux has a really amusing theory.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Which is basically his mom was a thought, and therefore black men, and therefore in order to get attention from his mom, he started unconsciously imitating the men that his mom was into.
How did he get away with this one? I'm just putting up another one of him dressing as some indigenous chief. Oh, there's the picture of him dressed up as a Nazi. He's dressed up as fucking Hitler, I think, in that one. Or is that real, or is that...
I don't think that's real.
No, it might have been. Let me look this up.
There's a stream delay, so I don't see the picture you're looking at.
Well, I mean, isn't it completely obvious why
No, I think
he's
that
able to
one's
get away with it?
fake. It's hard to
Why?
tell, though.
I mean, because media spin, obviously.
Yeah, people just listen to whatever the TV
The same thing happened in the United States. The governor of Virginia, or one of the either like the attorney general, the lieutenant governor, the governor of Virginia, like Democrat, had a whole bunch of pictures of him in blackface, and he apologized, but nothing happened to him.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until that one happened. Like I
even basically said,
realize
like,
people did that in the 21st or 20th
when this
century.
happened with Trudeau, I basically tweeted out, said, "Look, I'm the most racist person I know, and I would never even think of doing that."
Well, it's just fucking weird.
Yeah, it's just cringe boomer humor.
Okay, what are the odds that Justin Trudeau is actually Castro's son?
32%.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because they do look really
it's a
similar.
plurality. Like it's.
Yeah, because I mean, there is a possibility that he's just not Pierre's son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like let's put it like this. I think that, like, I'm 40% that it's Castor's son. 30 to 40, or like 35%, it's somebody else's son other than Castor or Pierre's. Did I cut out?
No, that was very funny, and we heard you.
So regardless if so, there's a good possibility Trudeau the Liberals will still have the largest party, but they won't have a majority.
Mm-hmm.
So that would still be somewhat of a blow to them.
Yes.
Okay. So polls have started coming in from Maxime Bernier's county, or whatever it's called. What are they called?
Riding.
Sounds gay.
That's because it is.
Oh, good. Yeah, they're projecting that he'll win.
I mean, only one of the polls. So.
Are you referring to Maxime Bernier?
Oh, it's coming in all over the place. Okay, so we got a bunch in Ontario. We got some stuff in Alberta now.
It's actually an interesting fact that Maxime Bernier's riding is the whitest riding in Canada.
Really, that's
presented
hilarious.
without comment.
Where is his riding?
Rural Quebec.
It's on the. I guess it's on the American side.
There we go.
It's on the left bank of the right bank of the St. Lawrence.
Yeah, it's near Quebec City.
I've been. That is a beautiful city.
Oh yeah, I've never been, but I'm pretty familiar.
We went there in my French class when I was 12. It was fun. Terrible drivers though. We got to see one of the big cathedrals there. I got it confused with the one in Montreal, the blue interior. So it wasn't quite as nice as I actually remember it being.
But did you see the Citadel? That to me.
The giant castle.
The Citadel, the fortress.
The chateau.
No, that's Chateau Frontenac. That's a hotel.
Isn't that in Ottawa?
No, that's in Quebec.
No, you're thinking of Chateau Laurier.
Okay.
Chateau L'Oreal.
Laurier. Yeah.
Because you're worth it.
Because you're worth it.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe she's not.
Okay, so anyways, I don't really know what to say so far about the results. The Conservatives are not doing bad. The thing is, almost everything that's come in so far is Liberal, is areas where they aren't competitive. So this is where it's going to kind of be decided in Southern Ontario, particularly in the 905 region. Toronto is going to entirely go Liberal. So we're going to see how the rest of Ontario is.
So basically, Ontario actually. So conservatives have some reason, even if Toronto basically outweighs the rest of the province, is that it's not quite like the United States, where like even though a huge portion of New York State is conservative, it doesn't matter because New York
The
just takes every.
suburbs tend to vote conservative.
But I mean,
Well,
like
it doesn't matter because it's writing by writing. It's not province by province. And
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah, okay, because
you know,
that's how it
electoral,
is in the
it's
United
a
States,
prime
except for
minister's
Maine.
system.
I will tell you this right now. I feel like Ontario, which I mean, I'm from Ontario. I feel like we're the only province that has no redeeming qualities, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, at least you're not full of the French, so.
Well, I am francophone.
I know.
It's okay though.
My ancestors slaughtered you bastard at Tours.
So this is a funny thing. My mom recently learned that she has like a tiny amount of Anglo ancestry from about 300 years ago, and I think she had like a mild identity crisis. It was very mild, and I mean I playfully, but yeah.
Although I'm an Anglo trader. I picked Saint John Fisher as my patron saint, or as my confirmation saint, because he was awesome. But I just think, yeah, what a beautiful Catholic country was lost when that fat ass king, said, "I want a divorce." I really despise Henry VIII.
I
Sir
think
Kirk has
it was
said...
Cecil who did that.
Cecil
it
the
was
Lion?
William Cecil that did that.
I don't think you're... Who are you referring to?
The Prime Minister under Elizabeth.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, it really started under Edward.
Mary Queen of Scots did nothing wrong.
I agree.
Although I'm an HRE national.
So
it's like if you
looks like the BC are actually, the Bloc are actually picking up quite a few seats in Quebec. So the Conservatives should start getting a whole bunch now because the West is starting to come in. The real question is how Southern Ontario will go. Because keep in mind, the Conservatives won the last provincial election last year. So we don't know how that's going to translate.
This seems a lot more fair than just because it felt like, even if, say, Toronto or Vancouver outweighs the rest of the province, if you're from bumblefuck nowhere in these states or in these provinces, you still have some voice, whereas I'm from a much more conservative part of New York, but nothing I say matters.
Interior BC is very conservative. So the Conservatives actually pick up quite a few seats from
I'm not disagreeing there. I'm just saying in the United States, essentially, it wouldn't matter because we just have a simple majority vote thing. So, since the majority of people in, say, Illinois live around Chicago, doesn't matter how the rest of the state votes. All that matters is how Chicago votes, and they always vote left wing. Whereas it seems different in Canada.
Well, it is different. Doesn't matter. It would be like congressional seats.
Yeah,
you live in a different congressional seat than New York City proper.
I basically live in the cities in upstate New York, like Buffalo, Rochester, and Albany, are fairly left wing, but the rural areas are sort of like borderline neo-Nazis. I've seen Confederate flags flying in New York State. Problem is though, we're just north of where the opium epidemic is starting to spread.
Well, that sucks.
Okay, updates, guys. So the Conservatives are starting to come in, so it's looking very close, actually. Like I said, they're going to pick up basically every seat in Alberta, every seat in Saskatchewan, or just about all of Saskatchewan and most in Manitoba. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. But going on how I'm basically a trader is if you know Code Geass, how the main character is serving the Empire, the Britannia, but he's Japanese, or no, it's the reverse. I'm basically like that, where I'm ethnically Anglo, but in my heart I basically turned traitor and I'm continental now. I hate analytic philosophy,
I'm like I'm a. This is how I describe my ideology on Twitter: is I'm a reactionary Confucian Hegelian.
Interesting.
Because I love Prussia. I think if England was one way Protestant civilization could go, Prussia was a better way.
I would say it went a
I
better
don't know
way.
that much about the history of Germany. Was Prussia Lutheran or Calvinist?
It was Lutheran, but the king was Calvinist.
Oh, okay.
Well, the way it worked is, yeah, initially it was they were one of the later I guess parts of the HRE to go Protestant, and they still wanted to keep good relations with the emperor. Like they went back and forth during the 30 Years' War, but eventually the Swedes just bullied them into supporting the Protestant cause. They initially just converted to Lutheran, and then the Prince Elector, was it Joachim? No, Joachim Sigismund II became Calvinist, and then eventually they just sort of blended. They slowly just blended it together.
Yeah,
and
with
then,
the Prussian Union.
Yep, and then it sort of just became basic Lutheran. Frederick the Great, though, did commission the building of a large Catholic cathedral, St. Hedwig's in Berlin.
Yeah, that said, he was privately like
very religious.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't.
I don't like Frederick the Great, but I don't want to fight with you. So.
He wasn't as much of a little bitch as Voltaire was, who basically said, like, when Frederick the Great went on one of his wars, he's like, Frederick raped me, because he said, like, he basically went, like, me too, because he wanted to face the King of Prussia.
Anyways, sorry, back to the election. So it looks like the Bloc are picking up a fair number in Quebec. We still have lots to come in. The Conservatives look like they've actually picked up a fair number of seats. Let's see. What's it looking like in the 905? Ooh. Oh, okay. There's only like one poll so far, so we'll see how this goes. I'm just looking at the Toronto area stuff. I don't know. This is going to be close. Like it's very close at the moment. Like I said, once this starts to come in from Western Canada, it's going to be a lot better for the Conservatives. But it looks like the NDP is doing... Actually, they're doing crappy. What am I talking about?
Anyway, is it possible for there to be recounts there? Is that a thing, like in the United
Only
States?
if the Conservatives win.
Sorry, for recounts?
Is there...
Very, very rarely.
Is very rare, okay.
Because as I said earlier, I worked a poll once and we had virtually no spoiled ballots at my entire station. It just doesn't really happen.
And unlike in the United States, we have voter ID.
But that's racist.
And we don't use
why
machines. It's all
the Liberals say the same thing about that tier, that voter ID is racist. They try to get rid of it as much as possible.
What do you mean you need? What do you mean you ought to be a citizen to vote?
Well, they try to claim it puts a burden on the voter and on like.
It should.
Yeah, I know. If you don't have the agency to get ID, I'm sorry, you don't deserve.
Well, my view is if you're not initially, it's you have the idea. Well, actually, don't lower the voting age. Raise it back up to 25, and then raise it to 30 in landowning males. And I'm like, fuck it. It should only be. We should just reform everything so that the governor of each state becomes a prince elector and they get to decide. I think elective I still declare myself a monarchist to the core, but I think in a country like the United States, something like the HRE and elective monarchy would be good.
Well, elective monarchies.
So, okay, the Liberals just picked up a whole bunch of seats somewhere. I'm just trying to see where that is. Is it Toronto? Or is Toronto coming in? Maybe. Yep, Toronto's coming in. There we go. They're going to win basically everything here.
Mm-hmm. I think he's kind of a terrible person, or he's very not liked. But Gavin McInnes did have a funny video talking about how basically there's only two places you could possibly move to in Canada, and that's Toronto and Vancouver. I like what he said. Like,
the province of Nunavut, or the territory of Nunavut. It's like, you know why it's called that? Because that's how much is inhabitable. None of it.
Pretty much. I forget how long the territories normally take.
I don't know.
So, I don't know, the block don't look like they're picking up as much as people thought they would be. Or maybe just the lot hasn't come in yet. Oh, like, very little of Montreal has. It's gotta be weird to be the MP of, like, one of these giant troll regions.
Mm-hmm. Where there's basically just nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not looking very good.
For what?
The Liberals not getting a majority government. I mean, I guess there's still Alberta to hold out hope for, but meh.
I don't think it's looking like the Liberals got a majority. I think they're pretty much in minority territory still.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I think... Sorry, go ahead.
Maxim Bernier is no longer in his own county. It's a Conservative. Or in his own riding.
It's still close, though.
No, it's not.
1,100 to 900? That's what I see it.
That's
close.
Where are you getting it from?
Same website, Global News, but it's all comes from the... What are the numbers for that you have?
I'm on the Star. Can you send me the link to yours?
Yeah, does it say a vote count for that?
It says 762 to 521.
Like 762?
Yeah. I'll look on to yours now.
Yeah, I mean, there's about 100,000 people in each riding. I mean, only a fraction of that actually vote, but so when it's still in like the thousands, it's too close to call. The polls had Maxime Bernier about 4% ahead, which is basically a tie. It's a toss-up, but it's way too close to call at this point.
Okay.
It is really the only election that I care about. I don't want the Conservative Party to win. I think the most damaging outcome of this election would be if the Conservative Party won, because it just meant it just would mean we'd get more of the same, but with a blue face.
I know, but they probably enforce like laws, so.
Yeah, I mean, the one benefit would be our oil industry would do better, and we would have less illegal immigration, but that really isn't enough for me.
They would punish ISIS members. I mean, that's something. I love how that was like a big, like that was considered a far-right issue, was to punish returning members of ISIS.
What a world. Justin
Trudeau called them returning terrorist travelers.
How do you do? This is something I really hate. Is how the gay pride movement ruined the term folk, because they always use that. They always say like, we need to be nice to LGBTQ folk. Like that's for some reason just the way they say it makes me disgusted. So does anybody have any fun stories of interacting with trans people?
Oh, I have a few.
Please tell.
Well, okay, so this is one I like to tell a lot. I was in a fence. I was in a fencing club. You know, fencing?
Yeah.
The sort of stuff. Anyway, so sorry if I sound condescending. Anyway, so in comes this really, really tall, what I think is a woman, about 6'1", 6'2". And then I realize, okay, this is obviously a guy, and he's way bigger than me. And he talks about how he tries to enter female competitions, about how they will look at his hips and think that he's a guy. And it's like, yeah, of course. And he's a lesbian. He talks about how he wants to have a hot girl. And it's one of those cases, obviously.
Is this Chris Chan?
Oh no, because this guy was really tall and jacked.
So he seemed like he was still at least capable of something.
Yeah, and he had massive fake boobs. Massive. And he had a shaved down brow bone with a bunch of fake makeup. with a bunch of really obvious makeup. It was awful. It was horrible.
Yeah, I don't really know. I've only met a few in my life. The most important one I met, or the only one that I actually have ever talked to, was in college, and it was just this horrible asshole. He was like this tiny little skinny nerd, and one day he comes in wearing a dress, and then he would dress up as like anime maid girls, but like he wouldn't shave, so he still had a beard. And apparently, like one of my friends at that time, his fiance like said like he sexually harassed her and like said like, I'm actually a lesbian. It's really disgusting.
Oh yeah, and I've seen others like and here's the thing, they're almost always really tall. I saw this other one, it was a really masculine, like 6'5" Asian guy who was wearing a mini skirt. Then another time there's this other really, really tall one in my apartment building. Again, very, very tall. Very, very long, prominent nose, really long, jagged face. Sometimes I look at these trans people and I think to myself, man, I wish I had that trans person's jawline.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for saying trans person, but
degenerate.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so back to the election. Okay, no, it's looking like a liberal minority at the moment. Let me see. I'm too tired to do proper math. Okay, 70 plus 18 plus 9. Okay, it's fairly close, but yeah.
Well, I love how Northwest Territories is just its own single riding.
Yeah, there's only
Yeah,
30,000
each of the territories
people
is
there.
like that.
I have to ask, who does the Northwest Territories usually vote for?
It usually just goes the same way the rest of the country does. Back when we had Harper governments, it went blue, and when Trudeau won last time, it went red.
The majority of the territories is American Indian, right? Or is there any territory that isn't a majority?
Yukon had a conservative government for a long time, I think. But they called them the Yukon Party.
Yukon comes across as the only livable territory.
Yes.
I've actually always had a strange interest in Yukon and a strange desire to visit it.
Can someone explain how did these statues get thrown into the Tiber?
Two Chads went into the garden or whatever. They took the statues and they threw them into the Tiber.
Has there been any
the
official
based kings they are
about this?
Yes, they have been. Well, of course, it's been very. It all depends on how they report it. I love America Magazine, the Jesuit Jesuit rag. Initially said fertility statues thrown into the Tiber, and then they had to write it to say like two indigenous statues because they didn't want to just admit, these are pagan idols. They haven't caught the two kings that did it though, thank goodness.
Yeah, those people are awesome. They deserve medals.
We need to do more of this, and just I wish I had the strength, like if they ever, because I go to a fairly liberal parish because there aren't a lot of good parishes right nearby. If they ever have a rainbow flag, I think I might have the inkling just to go, steal.
Yeah. Oh, literally every mainline Protestant church in Canada has rainbow flags. Like every church in Toronto has a rainbow flag. Even some of the Catholic ones, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
yeah,
I remember. I remember back in Prince Imperial. Which one of you is Canadian?
I am.
Okay,
I'm close to Canadian. I live in upstate New York.
Hey.
I'm just across from Lake Ontario from you guys.
I'm a convert from evangelical Christianity too, and one of the things that really sort of really made me lose my taste for Protestantism, I guess, was finding out that the two biggest churches in Canada, the Anglican Church and the United Church of Canada, are both explicitly pro-sodomy churches.
Oh, the United's like the worst. That's the denomination I was raised in.
That's the denomination Jack Layden was in.
For me though, it was that one of the reasons I started my channel was because I was getting fed up with evangelicals completely, even if they were like faithful when it came to like, yeah, homosexuality is wrong, abortion's wrong. They would completely cuck to the race issues and be like, we need to enforce having black leaders. We need to listen to black voices. And like, when they just essentially started worshiping black people, I'm like, something is wrong here.
Yeah, like the whole adopting kids from the third world thing.
There are plenty of American children that need adoption.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. The Liberals are currently at a majority if it was to stop here.
Hmm.
I don't know
Yeah,
how many
but
more
the
seats
Conservatives
we
are
get.
going to win the entire West,
We'll see what
Western
BC
Prairie provinces.
happens.
So,
Yeah.
And most of Toronto seems to have already come in.
Well, some of these are
literally in
like
Alberta,
two
there's one
polls
seat that the
reporting.
Conservatives might not win,
So.
and it's pretty similar in the other Western provinces.
Oh, there we go. A bunch of Conservative seats came in. Okay, so it looks like they're going to win rural and suburban Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean, though? Polls come in really fast in Canada compared to a lot of other places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it helps that our population's not that high.
Yeah, but just look at what ballots look like in the States. It's a clusterfuck.
What do you mean?
Like the hanging Chad thing.
The what?
I never heard of this.
Okay.
That was a very like one-time thing.
Oh, that was a one-time thing? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what thing are you talking about?
So in the 2000 presidential election in Florida, they developed this butterfly.
Yeah, the butterfly ballot.
The butterfly ballot, where it was completely impossible. It was very, very difficult to tell who you voted for. And it got so bad that apparently old people wouldn't push in the buttons when they voted all the way, so that they would like say these partially pushed in and holes like in a Scantron. We have to search for ones that are partially pushed in because machines can't find them. So there was hanging chads or partially pushed in like Scantron things, and that they were actively going through every single ballot and checking to see if it was partially pushed in for the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
until
it was a
the U.S.
partial
Supreme Court
recount.
stopped it.
It was only in Republican-leaning areas.
No, it was only in Democratic.
It
Really
was?
close.
Oh, okay.
Global News projects minority government.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I don't know. It's still pretty close.
I don't think a majority is really possible for the Liberals yet. BC is going to be mostly NDP and Conservative. And the rest of the West is going to be almost entirely Conservative, so they needed to win more seats in Atlantic Canada and Ontario for a majority. And the Conservatives haven't won enough for them to get a minority.
The pooch on this one. They really should have done better, the Conservatives.
Well, they seem to have done better than last time, but seems like it seems like from what you said, anything is better than apparently not trying at all last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last election was actually really heartbreaking for me. That was right after I got out of high school, and I spent like the entire summer door knocking for them.
I cried when Justin won. I was legitimately traumatized by him.
Why? He has such a nice smile. Isn't he handsome?
Such a fucking... I think Bernier might lose his seat.
Yeah.
It still looks neck and neck, and it's still pretty early.
Oh, yeah.
Does if it's a minority, does that mean Trudeau wins?
If it's
he
a
stays
liberal
Prime
minority, which
Minister.
is what it's looking like. I
Okay,
mean, he wins by
how
less
is-
than he would have wanted to.
But he has a majority right now, doesn't he?
Well, yes.
Yes.
So does that mean that he's shook in there anyway, or does it just mean business as usual?
He'll have
It'll mean
trouble
the
getting
NDP has more
legislation
power,
passed.
basically.
Will the NDP get any? Do you think that they're going to have any positions in the government?
No, that would be if it was an official coalition, which almost certainly won't happen. It will basically mean the NDP will go to them and say, I don't know, free college or free pharmacare or something like that. Do this and we'll support you.
Oh, Serp, here's a question for you. Why did Trump do so good in 2016 but lost the House in 2018?
That usually just happens though. Every.
That's I think that's occurred in every election with the exception of 2002, that the party that won the presidential election loses the subsequent House elections. It's been that way for decades, if not over a century, or multiple centuries.
That happened with Obama.
Yeah, no, it happened with Obama, Clinton, Reagan, Bush, the first Bush.
I think it happened with the second Bush, didn't it? Where they lost control of the Senate.
He didn't. The thing is that in 2002, because of 9/11, he didn't. That's like an outlier. It's happened the entire lifetime of my parents, almost every single time. It's just something that happens apparently in the United States.
The House was really weird though prior to the Reagan era, because there's so many conservative Democrats.
Yeah. See, the United States Democratic and Republican parties are becoming more and more and more federal, as opposed to coalitions. Because the United States actually is one of the worst, the political system, in terms of whipping, is awful, and that people just vote all over the place. It's actually been getting whipping has been working more, but the United States compared to every other Anglophone country is chaos electorally, because people just straight up won't vote for what the party votes for. It's infamous because of McCain. McCain and what was it, Flake Boy, or what it was, the
Jeff
other
Flake,
yeah, and then so it's been infamous for in the United States, people don't vote along party lines at all.
Okay, so update, it's looking like minority government. So the Conservatives are at 97, the Liberals are at 122, the BQ is at 29, and the NDP is at 14. So it seems because the NDP and BQ had a bit of resurgence, vote splitting is probably screwing the Liberals in a lot of cases.
Okay, here's the thing too. The Republicans did really well in the Senate in 2018. So they didn't lose the Senate, and they lost the House though. They gained in the Senate though.
Was that partially were people angry at them for not getting their legislative agenda accomplished?
Yeah, Trump didn't get anything except for the change in the tax code. And keep in mind that Flake and McCain, probably half of the entire 2017 was just devoted, maybe even the entire legislative thing was just devoted to repealing Obamacare, and
they didn't do it.
Went over and over and over again, where Jeff Flake and McCain just at the last second prevented it from being overturned.
I love this, how all the civility that you'd think should be reserved when it comes to stuff like this is completely gone when it comes to McCain. People are like, fuck that dead asshole, he was the worst person ever. Which even I feel
let's
kind of
put
bad
it like
about.
this. It got to the point where the mark of being not like a insurgent or a populist or a libertarian Republican. Being the mark of an orthodox Republican meant being disgusted by John McCain, and the mark of like being an orthodox Democrat meant like thinking John McCain is a hero.
Mm-hmm.
During
like,
the beginning
the
of
way they
Trump's
reacted
presidency.
to his death really was just. Ugh.
Well, they gave him the death that they give like they gave Kim Jong Un or Kim Jong Il when he died. Like that's how his death, like his funeral was.
Okay, sorry, just a side note, guys. So I think what we can hope for now is that the Liberals and NDP won't collectively get enough seats to form a coalition.
Would that
Which
mean
seems
another?
quite possible.
Would that mean another election?
It would mean they wouldn't get anything done until another election. But they would maintain control of the entire bureaucracy and all the executive branch, so...
So it seems like Brexit's not going to happen.
Is it? I can't tell.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, because basically, Parliament is adamant at absolutely doing whatever it can to prevent it from happening, because Boris Johnson finally got a deal that the EU agreed to last week, and then he brought it to vote, and Parliament shot it down and said, no, you have to extend it again. And
I think that the Conservative Party is actually going to dissolve and become irrelevant, and that the Labour is going to rule for the perceivable future now.
So,
like, I'm not being unironic. I think
unironically,
it's
the
a
UK
single-party nation now.
The UK is the equivalent of the PRC. The UK is like as bad as
when
the
I
PRC.
talk to Chinese people, Chinese pen pals, they're less afraid of saying things on WeChat than people are on Facebook in the UK.
The Conservatives have a large lead in the polls, though.
Well, the problem is that...
but you don't... So here's the thing, is it was widely believed after the European election, because the Conservatives did worse than I think every major party in the country. They did considerably worse, so it was viewed that if Brexit doesn't happen, the UKIP the successor to UKIP, the
Brexit Party,
right now, the Brexit Party will will run nationally and cause the Conservative Party to lose seats the same way that the NDP could cause the Liberal Party in Canada to lose seats, and then Labour would just win in a landslide due to the single district plurality.
Now, in the current election, the current polls had the Conservatives at 37, Labour at 27, and Brexit at 11. So,
where's Lib Dems?
17.
I didn't know they were still relevant.
No, the Lib Dems gained massively in popularity because the Lib Dems was Brexit never, and Labour was we're a democracy, we have to do what we vote for.
Mm-hmm.
And Lib Dems was democracy doesn't matter, not having Brexit is more important.
Labour was we live in a society.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't even matter with the Conservative Party, because they still won't. The Conservative Party still won't vote for Brexit.
Well, I've gotten to the point that I actually tell people outright that Labour is better than the Tories now.
Why?
Because Labour's just literally, you're voting for a free market that believes in, like, it's actually worse at this point. Like, their foreign policy is garbage. Like, Labour has a better foreign policy because there's no social conservatism to be found within the Tories at all. And just literally, what's the fucking, like, the asshole that used to be a commie that runs Labour now?
Corbyn.
Corbyn?
No, Corbyn's a better person than, like, I rather have Corbyn
than Theresa May.
Theresa May.
Problem is, Boris Johnson is... What are the thoughts
I know
on
Boris Johnson's the guy, but Boris Johnson is, like, more supportive of immigration than than
Where is
Corbyn
this idea that he's far right? He's like
because
super
he was in
social
favor of
liberal.
Brexit. That makes him a Nazi.
Yes, he was really in favor of Brexit, but he's like this. Isn't he the son of an immigrant himself? He's like fanatically pro-immigration.
His great grandfather was from Turkey.
Yeah.
And
To be fair, he's
pro social liberalism.
To be fair, he is Circassian.
Okay.
Not Turkish.
Hot.
He's a Circassian.
Okay, hot.
That's why he's blonde. That's why he actually gets his blonde hair from the Turkish side of his family, because he's a Circassian.
Because as we all know, real Anglos are beady-eyed and black-haired.
Whether it's better to support a former communist or it's better to support a rabidly pro-immigration Turk, you can tell things have gone off the fucking rails.
You know, Turkey would be kind of based if it wasn't for the fact that they want mass immigration to the West.
I don't know if there is much in favor of that they used to be. Because Erdogan's very concerned with Turkey's population growth.
Well, here's the thing about that. When they talk about sending a bunch of people to the West, what he really means is sending a bunch of the refugees to the West.
And
as like
sending
a threat.
Kurds.
Oh my god, you do not want Kurds.
No, like sending the shittiest people they can find.
I shit you not. I've met Kurds in real life, and the memes are true. The whole, yes, my name is Mohammed, but I am not Arab. I am Indo-European. We are civilized Kurds.
How do you do, fellow white people?
Yes, and I shit you not. I remember meeting a Kurdish girl who says the reason Kurds are oppressed is because 2,500 years ago, Cyrus the Great established a personal union with the Median Empire, and that caused Kurds to become subjugated.
Mm-hmm. The thing that's fascinating to me is there's a bunch of people that I think it's mostly just because they want to be contrarian assholes, is people actively supporting the Communist Party of China in Hong Kong, thinking like, yeah, we would rather, yeah, like, yeah, obviously I hate democracy too, but I hate liberal democracy too, but I think I'll take the Hong Kong protesters over a fucking genocidal communist government.
I mean, okay, here's the thing. The right in Hong Kong, like the social conservatives, support the Communist Party because they're pro-Beijing. It's weird. It's really weird. It's because the right in Hong Kong are Chinese nationalists. So being a Chinese nationalist means supporting Beijing, which happens.
Isn't there a fake Kuomintang that's controlled by the Communist Party of China that runs for elections on purpose?
Yes.
I have to say, yeah. Honestly, I just really, really, really want there to be a Chinese emperor again. I want it so bad.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So there's the Revolutionary Committee of the Chinese Kuomintang, which is China has a bunch of fake opposition parties.
You know, it's gonna be if the Chinese Communist government, when in the future the Communist government in China finally collapses and or if the same thing would happen with North Korea, if they just start getting investigated, if they actually start doing like real investigations, they're just gonna find some really fucked up shit. They're basically gonna find all the stuff Alex Jones said. Like I would not be surprised if they had like fish human hybrid people somewhere in China.
Okay, so it looks like the Conservatives have won every seat in Alberta.
No, okay.
They won Calgary?
And Manitoba, too.
Oh, no, that hasn't been called yet.
Okay.
They might have won Calgary.
Seems like they're winning is it Manitoba? No, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, because those are oil provinces. The NDP might win like one. Ralph Goodall. Okay, that's why. He's like one of Canada's most widely respected MPs. So that explains it.
So
I don't know if I'm...
BQ picked up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't actually know if I'm gonna vote in 2020 because I'm just like increasingly thinking like
Do a
Just
LARP vote.
vote.
Do you live in a big state where you can? There's many LARP candidates.
okay, I'll form the Upstate Independence Party because there's a lot of us that want us to
What
see
about like your local representative?
maybe. Well, they mostly just vote Republican, anyways. It's funny. The town I live in, the actual mayor's name is Fritz, which is weird.
Yeah, just at least vote in the House election.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the
As a
Republicans
Canadian, can you
actually
say
win.
House again?
House?
House. Yay.
Yeah,
Hustle.
You're
The
foreign. You
technical-
talk funny.
the technical term for that is Canadian raising, if you're curious, Fritz.
Isn't there
Yeah.
like, or was this only a thing in the 70s, where like an explicit pro-life party of New York?
I don't know.
There used
There's
to
the
be.
Conservative Party of New York. I think used to
Yeah,
have
I
repealing
think that's
women's
what it
voting
was.
as being
It was
one
like
of its
founded by
policies.
Catholics explicitly to oppose abortion, and there's a similar one in California that's created by Mexican Catholics who are against abortion but for like unlimited immigration.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I
And then
would
trying
there's
to
like the
remember
there's the Alaskan Independence Party.
The Alaskan Russian Reunification Party.
Yeah.
I
That's
I
the
would- I would-
Solidarity Party in California, which is composed by like Mexican Catholics.
I
that
would
are
legit
for,
vote
like-
for a. I would legit vote for state's independence party because that's an issue that actual upstate New Yorkers that aren't LARPy weirdos like me would actually be in favor of. Because our governor is like is a real piece of shit.
Cuomo, right?
Yeah, he basically he outright explicitly said people that are pro life and pro traditional family are the state.
He's Catholic though, right?
With massive fingers, yes.
Of course he is.
And he is not. Yeah, but what else? Even though, like, just like Mordor emptying itself of the orcs, the elderly Jews are all fleeing outside of New York to go to Florida.
Okay, so it's almost getting to the point where an NDP Liberals would be able to get a coalition, which is fucking scary.
Actually, dangerously close to the Liberals having a majority, but I don't think it's really possible for them to eke that out.
Yeah,
They
I
only
don't
would
know.
need 22 more seats, but there aren't many left.
Some of
I
them
s-
might flip the other direction, so
I really
a lot
still
of these
can't.
are still pretty early.
I still just can't imagine living in one of these like podunk towns in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Like I know there's a term for a fear of like there's the fear of closed spaces, but there's also a fear of like wide empty spaces, and I think I have that because I could never.
Agoraphobia?
Yeah, I could never live in the. No, I think that's the fear of closed in tight spaces. I have a fear of like.
Agoraphobia?
Yeah, again, that's the fear of tight spaces. I have the
No,
fear of.
claustrophobia is the fear of tight spaces.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Agoraphobia is the fear of open spaces. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, I have that. Yeah, like the idea of like living in just a completely flat cornfield, tiny town in like South Dakota is absolutely terrifying to me.
That's the sexiest thing in the world.
What, flat?
No, openness.
That's
Broad
the gayest thing I've
expanse.
ever heard.
Unless it's with regards
Okay,
to women.
urbanite.
I don't even live in a city. Fuck, I just want there
You
to
just
like be.
revealed that you live in a city.
I live a mile away from a farm.
Yeah, well, you may live in a city, but I live in a society.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. I don't know. The Liberals are pretty close to getting a majority. Yeah.
What website are you on?
The Toronto Star.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but there's only about 40 undeclared seats. I mean, I know a lot of these are still toss-ups. There's only about 40, so they'd need to win about half of those. So it's close.
That's true.
So,
BC's
to-
polls aren't even closed yet. They'll be closed in about half an hour, so we should know within like the next hour.
have the Conservatives underperformed?
Yeah, they have. Massively.
Okay. Is everybody underperformed except for the Bloc Quebec?
I mean, everyone is about where the polls said they'd be.
The Conservatives underperformed.
Did NDP underperform?
They got okay. Let's
BC's
take
a big
look.
part of their base, so
Let's take
they
a look
haven't
at
really
this.
had their whole base come in yet.
So just quite for a bit. Okay, so the Liberals were projected to get 141, so they did better. The Conservatives underperformed by a lot. Yeah, I think the Conservatives underperformed. The Bloc of. Oh, the NDP greatly underperformed, but BEC isn't in yet.
I don't think the Liberals will get a majority because BC is going to be mostly NDP and Conservative.
Yeah.
So who's worse, Jag or Justin?
Jagmeet
Jag's
Singh wants
worse.
Canada
Jag's
to
a
take
lot
all
worse.
of America's reject quote-unquote refugees, so...
Gamers?
I wish.
Rise up, gamer nationalists.
No, these are literally people that are saying that they're refugees from America.
From Trump's America.
Literally,
well, the thing is,
that's what they say.
If this is like the celebrities all said they would fuck off to Canada, I'd be like, please take them. We want them out.
Torellian, someone's asking what French Canadians are like. Do you want to field this one?
Oh, sure.
They're kind of responsible for all of our country's problems.
They're secular jackass. They're incredibly secular. They address the younger generation address their parents by their first names. You know what? I think that's all I have to say. That it is normal among the younger generation to address your parents by their first names. They're some of the most socially liberal people on earth.
My sister calls my parents by their first name, and it bothers me.
That's legitimately terrible of her. No offense, Arjun.
It just seems weird to me. I always call them mom or dad.
My parents actually get mad. I just call my parents mom or dad, but my parents get mad if I ever say to my dad like, "Yes, sir." He doesn't want me to call him that.
Well, sir is a weird. I know Southerners often call their parents sir, and I find it really bizarre. But I mean, it's not wrong. But God, addressing your parents by their first name—that's just.
Quebec's also the most anti-religious part of Canada.
You know, I really, really hate the people who say Quebec is based in Red Pill. They're not, okay? Their whole mindset is Brits out, Haitians in, civic. Haitians speak French. They're based.
Algerians speak French.
Algerians are actually not that bad. Algerians are not that bad. But yeah, no, I freaking hate what French Canadians have become. Oh, come shut off the test.
I find all the stereotypes are true.
Oh yeah. No, they're trash. I will correct one misconception though, and that's the idea that the French spoken in Quebec is degenerate. No, it's not degenerate. It's just different. You were to speak to a normal French speaker in France, their French would not be any quote unquote better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna go to bed here pretty soon.
Okay.
But is the consensus that you guys have as Canadians is that the Liberals have won and that they're going to form a minority government?
Yeah, that looks like it.
Majority might be possible, but probably not.
I don't think
they need another 25. That's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's not really possible. Just kind of looks scary looking at the numbers.
The only scary thing is if the NDP gets a few more, then they could potentially form a coalition.
Yeah.
That's almost certain that between the two they'll have a majority, and it'll be some sort of minority confidence deal probably.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how long this government lasts, though.
Yeah, I think the longest minority government in Canadian history was 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Was that under Harper?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just remember hearing.
What is your guys' thoughts on Harper?
Anyway, good night. Thank you for having me on so much.
Harper was woker than he left.
I think Mr. Harper was a good man. I think he just, when he got to power, there was nothing he could really do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happened with Reagan at all, or
No,
Reagan was shit.
Reagan was the epitome of boomer neocons that basically gave my parents' generation the false idea that like, hey, it gave them the disgusting pendulum idea that, well, politics just goes one way and then the other. So they think that like 1980s America was just as conservative as 1950s America, when it absolutely wasn't.
Mr. Harper, from what everything I've heard, is a very religious man.
Is he Catholic?
He's
Evangelical.
evangelical,
Okay.
which is why. But he seems like the people, because I've talked to people who knew him personally, and they say he was a really just solid guy. A lot of people think he was very cold because he was very concerned with maintaining the dignity of his office. Like he didn't, like he would never do any of the stuff Justin Trudeau did. He didn't like acting in public and that kind of thing. So I don't know. He didn't achieve it that much, but I do like him as a person, I guess.
I just had to say this. Another reason why I'm not even. I guess I formed this after I converted, but is a reason I could never be a good evangelical anymore is because I fucking hate Israel. And the level of Israel worship that's in a lot of the evangelical communities is just absolutely disgusting.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Especially when most Arab Christians or most Palestinian Christians just say, "No, we hate Israel. What the fuck is wrong with you people?"
Like Harper just would never have done any of the shit Justin did, like where he shows at funerals and shit, and just random concerts and makes it about him. Like the only real thing I can think of is he had a cameo on Murdoch Mysteries as like a police officer who argues with him over what hockey team's gonna win, and that was like the only thing I could think of. But that was kind of quirky.
Oh, this is great. One of your viewers just added me on. He just addressed me on Twitter and said, "Quebec is best, okay?" He's a good guy, though. He's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
I have a lot of nostalgia for Harper just because, like I said, I door knocked for him for like an entire summer. Not for his, I wasn't in his riding, but for
I think he was a classy guy, if that's a weird.
Yeah, I mean, actually, retrospectively looking at his policies, he kind of sucked. Like immigration numbers kept on going up when he was in charge, and he didn't do anything about abortion. Though he did. Enough. Yeah, well, the Conservative Party did back then not fund abortions overseas in countries where it's literally illegal. Something that Andrew Scheer says the Conservative Party will now do. Right. So I guess he was slightly more pro-life than that. But yeah, there wasn't really much policy-wise, I guess, looking back, that I would really support. But he was a much classier guy, and he's maintained that level of respect post Prime Minister. Like a lot of Canadian Conservatives have been super anti-Trump and stuff, and I mean, I'm not even a huge Trump fan. But like our one and only female Prime Minister, who is also a progressive conservative, she's constantly going on about how much she hates Trump and calling all Trump supporters racist and that type of stuff. And he's always been very respectful and understanding, and even though he isn't really that type of conservative, he says that that like he understands where they're coming from and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate him not just totally denouncing those types of people.
The thing that'll be interesting for me is that I think Trump is probably going to win re-election, not just because of how horrible all the candidates running against him are, but also because incumbents usually have a better chance of winning. I think most U.S. presidents have sat for a second term, but I think there's a possibility Republicans could win in 2024. After that, Texas and a bunch of states are going to go blue because of demographics. And it'll be interesting if Republicans finally realize that because they did jack shit about actual immigration, they will never ever win another election. because it will become demographic because like because it does confuse me of like what goes on through the heads of the people at Turning Point USA, which I hate those people way more than I hate most uh, of the left, because they're just like such smug pieces of shit, and they think that their ideas like Charlie Kirk and the people at like Daily Wire are like, I hate to sound like a progressive, but they're like 20 years, and it's just like, what the fuck kind of world? What are you living? What world are you living in?
I will say this though: Turning Point USA has given the world some really good memes.
It has.
Okay, what is Turning Point USA? I don't even know what that is.
So I think essentially it's like a basic bitch It's like a Reaganite boomer conservatives comprised of millennials.
Oh, okay.
It's very astroturfed.
Yeah, and like and Charlie Kirk is like, hey, look, bigots! Trump helped make homosexuality illegal in these African countries. Isn't that right wing and conservative based?
Okay, guys, back to the actual election for a minute. So the Conservatives have caught up substantially. So the Liberals are currently at 145, Conservatives at 115, BQ 34, NDP 21, and the Greens 1. It looks like the Greens got BTFO.
So did already, but yeah, I get they called it. Maxime Bernier has lost his own. He's not getting his own seat.
Yeah, I saw that. That's literally the worst outcome from this election that I can imagine.
I like
Maxime
Bernier
as a person.
I like Maxime Bernier. I don't really know much about the People's Party, but I do like him as a person.
Okay, looks like the Conservatives won every seat in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
There was only one seat in Alberta that was disputed.
You know what? Here's the funny thing is that because thanks to Arjun, I've now become obsessed with Chris Chan because it's so fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, you know what he's been going through recently since you made your video.
No, I haven't paid attention in a while.
Well, have you heard of the dimensional?
Wait, the what?
So what basically, as increasingly, and now signs from his past, as things often occur with Chris Chan, things from his past actually really help predict what he's going to do now. Is some trolls convinced him that basically the world of Sonichu and the world of all his OCs and the world of everyone's OCs all exist as a parallel dimension called C196 or C197, and we live in dimension 1218. And he thought on December 18th, 2018, the two would collide, and like Quickville.
I think that's De Blasio.
What?
I'm just responding to this.
But so some trolls convinced him that literally that Sonichu exists in a different dimension that's real, and then it would all become real and merge with our dimension, and that didn't happen, but he still thinks it is. He also entered into a polyamorous marriage with two of his characters and with Mewtwo, and for several months over the summer, one of his characters, Magichan, apparently took over his brain and possessed his brain, and he pretended to be one of his OCs.
Magichan's like the best character.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing is there's a guy named Jacob Sockness who is like a legit other completely insane person that is obsessed with Chris Chan and wants to have sex with him and like wants to travel to his house. But Chris is, in one of his few moments of clarity, says, please, no.
Wow, the Conservatives lost the 905. They got their asses kicked. I blame Doug Ford for like all of this.
The thing is, like, Chris is also, he's lost any sympathy because he keeps killing his pets. Like, he got a cat, like that he basically just stole a cat that they found in someone's yard, and then like it died 2 weeks later.
Okay, I'm sorry. He needs to just be put away.
That's the saddest thing is like is what needs to happen, because his mom is going to die in a few years anyways. Or actually, I'm still not sure who's going to die first, him or his mother. But
that's a good question. Even
though he's 37, like with his diet and everything, I'm still fascinated that he's still alive. Like, I don't know, is it because autism gives you superpowers? Like, it gives you like leather skin and like regeneration, like the X-Men, But like he should be, by all accounts, he should have been dead by now, or at least he should be way fatter than he is. But it's like, how is his metabolism still that good?
It's probably not a metabolic thing. It's probably fat malabsorption, which is just where basically you excrete all your fat.
He doesn't do anything though.
He probably, uh, bowel moves it out. He shits it out. The poop just gets shat out because
he's constantly shitting too, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, he has fat malabsorption.
Okay, guys.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I mean, let's get back to this. Okay, so it's 2 away from a liberal NDP coalition, which seems likely, unless some switch, which is also possible. Yep. So they took Oh no! The NDP won in Edmonton.
So, what are your thoughts on these results then? Good, bad, what?
A liberal NDP which is just what happened, is the worst possible outcome. They're gonna turn the shit up till like 11.
Well, you're not an accelerationist, are you?
No, not in Canada. Maybe in France, but not in Canada. Torellian, do you think France is like the only Western European that's probably going to collapse in the next?
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, France is on its 5th republic. In the past, I mean, it's undergone so many regime changes over the past 2 centuries. The idea that it's not gonna at least undergo another massive constitutional change is ridiculous.
Well, it has the strongest far right and far left.
It's funny to think that a country that had dynastic continuity for about 800 years, after they lost that dynasty, became the most unstable country in Europe. Western Europe, at least.
Thanks, Freemasons.
800 years of Capetian rule.
I feel that you cannot actually be a Catholic, a practicing Catholic, and support the French Republic.
I mean, it depends on what you mean by support.
Cooperating.
Yeah, so the Liberals overperformed and the Conservatives and NDP underperformed. The BQ overperformed as well. But I guess some of these are probably pretty close, so we'll see like what winds up happening.
Well, yeah. Do you think there is going to be a coalition government?
I have no idea.
No, like I said, there's never been a coalition government in Canadian history. They might have some sort of confidence and supply deal, but that will be about it. Right. There might have been a coalition if the Conservatives had a plurality of seats, but there's absolutely no reason for the Liberals to do it now that they are the ones with the plurality.
Yep, they have they have enough to have supply and confidence with the NDP. I don't think this will last very long, though.
What will?
Especially if it's only by a seat or two before we have another election.
Yeah, like I said, the longest minority government was about 2.5 years, so about 2 years probably till another election.
Okay, so you can basically call it, because there isn't technically going to be an actual government. Or there will be, but this is grounds for another election then?
Not immediately, but sooner than if someone had a majority.
Okay.
About 2 years is what I'd say. No minorities lasted more than 2.5 years.
Trillian, someone makes a good point. France killed all the Huguenots and then imported every Muslim in the world.
Well, the thing is despite being very Catholic, I think the revocation of the Edict of Nantes, which provided toleration to the Huguenots, I think that was bad, and it really hurt France's economy. And They were gradually converting them anyway. So
No,
Yeah.
but I think that's funny.
oh, it's funny as heck.
Huguenots out, Muslims in, civic.
You mean civic as in civic nationalism?
I don't actually know.
Okay.
But take it however you will.
It is what it is, but I digress.
Yeah, so it looks like a liberal minority. This is kind of embarrassing. The Tories should have done a lot better than they did. Well, I guess there's still something they could get.
No, almost everything is gone. I think they're probably going to get like 100 seats.
Yeah, I don't know if any of these are gonna.
What were they at before,
flip,
though?
Like
They won
99.
99 seats in the last election, but they were at 95 right before dissolution.
Okay.
They lost a couple by-elections. Or there were some vacancies, I'm not sure.
Both. There were some people that were like retiring and became independents and that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I remember just trying to show how based I was, because how much I hate gays is at my school they would hand out these little during like Pride Week or whatever. Like there's like half the year is now Pride Month.
Yep, well, yeah.
There's gay Pride Month in June. There's Gay History Month in October, and then there's like three different separate gay weeks, and then there's like 2 weeks worth of individual days.
Well, keep in mind every month is White History Month.
Mm-hmm. But
Dude, we spent so many modules on we spent far more modules in history class in school on American Indians than we ever did on European history.
Yep, that's true.
Did you guys also have to build an American Indian village growing up?
No.
Yeah, we did that. That was
sounds
actually
nice,
fun.
though.
That was actually
That
fun. We
sounds
built.
fun.
well,
Yeah.
we didn't. Our history wasn't that bad. Well, the worst was in my 10th grade. 2 years before my senior year. My sophomore year of high school. Our history professor was so terrible at U.S. history. Like she legitimately showed us the Patriot as a good example of history. And if you don't know,
a certain Chadmiral who would be very triggered by that.
Yeah.
One of my professors I had a really based history professor in college. He was like an ex-Marine and super Catholic and Italian. He was awesome. And he basically said, like, I wanted to just declare a personal war against the Patriot because it's the fucking worst movie ever.
I like it as a movie.
Well, my problem is that I hate Roland Emmerich. I despise him more than any other filmmaker. But
fair enough.
he has like a weird statue of Pope JP II sitting on a toilet or sitting in a closet he has in his room, and he has like a whole bunch of communist propaganda posters. But
Mel Gibson?
No, Roland Emmerich. No, Mel Gibson is based as fuck.
Okay, I was confused for a second.
No. But anyways, in the Patriot, like they show the British shoving a whole bunch of people inside of a church, like American patriots inside of a church, and then setting it on fire. Which, if that got out, every country in the world would declare. Every Christian nation in the world would have declared war on the UK at that point.
No, I don't think they would have.
Well, it's something that the British government would never ever do, because that's essentially what I watched in Russian history. I watched the movie Come and See, which is a terrible title for a movie, which is like this horribly dark Soviet film from the 80s about partisans in occupied Belarus, and it shows like when the Nazis find a group of Jews, they all shove them inside of a building and do the same thing. So I guess Roland Emmerich was saying British soldiers in the revolution were just as bad as Nazis treating Jews, which no.
To be fair to the Patriot though, it's so like pro rah America, it's kind of awesome.
Maybe.
It's a really fun burger tard movie, so long as you understand that it's completely inaccurate.
I liked it as a movie.
It's like National Treasure, but good.
I like National Treasure.
Remember when we watched National Treasure and you're like, fuck you, this movie is the National Treasure.
And I
And
kept
then,
saying
like,
it
by
was
the end
great.
of it, you were in an autistic coma. And just not paying attention.
Something it reminds me of is like I love this. So you know how there's like the Extinction Rebellion riots in London right now? My favorite video of it is like a bunch of very clearly drama students, like all dressed up kind of like clowns, but not cool, like screaming and performing a citizen's arrest on a piece of broccoli.
What?
And I think the point is like they're trying to say we live in a society where like eating vegetables as opposed to meat and fat is looked down upon. Maybe they're like mocking it, but I basically said like we need more drama students to be activists because this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. But it reminds me of when I was in health class in high school. We watched the movie Cyberbully, which is like an ABC Family original movie. You're getting real quality there.
Hey,
Cyberbully.
you know what I
Cyberbully.
unironically want to watch?
What?
That movie Cuck. Which is about
Given
an
how much you
alt-right-
talk about gay sex, I can see why.
But anyways,
No, it's not what you think. It's not what you think. It's a movie about an alt-right guy who gets radicalized online or something like that. And it was touted as like the politically correct alternative to Joker by some people. Anyway, go on.
But I was saying is so Cyberbully it came out in 2011 and it's about like this clickster, which is like Facebook / Instagram that becomes really popular at this very accurate American high school. Keep in mind the director of this film was 62 years old, so he clearly knew what I think he was like from Belgium or something. So he clearly knew how American high school students acted. Anyways, the main character gets like way too into it and doesn't understand how the internet works and just has the whole Chris Chan experience of the trolls like making fun of her, and she ends up trying to kill herself in the funniest scene in the movie where she's trying to OD on like sleeping pills or
Oh,
something.
everybody slam that like button. It helps
No.
with the channel.
Okay.
Please.
But anyways, like the funniest scene, you can find it. It's cap off where her best friend comes home and like the girl is sitting in the bathroom like it like
I'll
she
be
can't
back in
get
a second,
she can't
guys.
get off this child's she can't get off the child-proof safety cap. She's like, I can't get the cap off. It's so funny. I always love how bullies are portrayed in direct-to-video movie or any movies because they're always like I think on Your Movie Sucks they said I guess somebody mentioned this that's like they always get like these drama students to play high school bullies and it's really funny.
Yeah, on that King George point from earlier, though, it is kind of a common trope on like boomer Americans that King George is up there with Adolf Hitler and Stalin as one of the worst tyrants from human history.
No, which if you look at how he lived, like a bunch of the monarchs around that time, because I think that's probably my favorite period in history is the Napoleonic era. Is you got a lot of monarchs that just stopped being degenerates, like King George III's predecessors were like these lecherous, like always, like it was of course it was expected they'd have a mistress and all that, and like King George III just didn't. He was just like a devout Anglican, happy family man that everybody loved. That like just sadly went insane.
Yeah, and I think he was the first Anglican from that family. They were Lutheran initially.
Oh yeah.
Or the first that was like born Anglican.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Anglicanism even back then was such a broad term.
I love this. My friend the Distributist. I like how he described the Imperium of Man in Warhammer 40k. He described it as basically what your local Anglican vicar in 1750 would describe the Catholic Church as.
That's based.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the science fiction story I want basically the main characters come from essentially it's space World War One, and the League. It's basically imagine if the Imperium of Man, but like toned down a few notches to be like, because the reason why the Imperium can be as based as it is because it's kind of too based. Like it's too ridiculous and like nobody would actually want to live there, as opposed to if it was toned down a few, then it could easily be like an alt-right paradise. But like as it is, like it gets away with it because it's just so ridiculous. Or it's like whenever I play Stellaris, I play as empire, so elective monarchy. We're not xenophobic or xenophilic. Though I do like having just a collection of like of small alien races, just so I can be like, I don't know, just so I can like if I need to settle certain planets that like I like to have like only one planet that's for multiculturalism, and that's just going to be my Commonopolis.
Anyway, Argent, and everyone else, nice to meet you all.
Yep, you too.
It was a good stream. I'm getting pretty tired.
Yeah, I think we should end it.
Okay. Do you mind if I show my channel quickly?
I mean, you can if you want. It's not my channel to.
Okay. Well. Yeah, everyone. Settlers Lament. I'm just starting a new channel. I'd appreciate if anyone that's interested goes there and sub. I don't just talk about Canadian stuff. Yeah. So.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, we're starting to. I think a lot of us are tired.
Oh, okay. I guess we'll end it here then. So, everybody, on final count, the Liberals have 154 seats, just short of a majority. The Conservatives have 120, the BQ 35, the NDP 23, and the Greens 3. If people want, I'll maybe try to do like a post-election analysis sometime tomorrow or in the next couple days, and we'll see how the polls lined up with the results we got.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, it was fun.
I appreciate it. Serp's not here anymore, but thanks for him. For him too. If anybody wants to join the Discord server, I'll put that in chat. Otherwise, I think I'm going to go to bed now. Good night, everyone.